Oh, there we go. You are live. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday hangout that floats all over the place with Damien Sleepy Reader and Rasa, aka La Rasa. Welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. Yeah, what do you guys got to say? I mean, all of a sudden, I'm not with it. It's nice to see everybody. I hope everybody had a very good comic reading week. I'll just show this. I meant to have this as a screen, as a picture, but this is my reading stack this week.
Oh my god!
I went mental because I had a week where I really didn't read much of anything, and then this week I just really was into reading a boatload of books, and most of them were phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to having a chat this week. What about you all?
I have read as little as I have ever had, to be honest.
Well, Terrence is making up for you.
Yeah. Well, I've been busy organizing this room. I have. I'm trying to change the way I shelve my comics, or trying to at least.
Okay.
I acquired. So you see this lovely filing cabinet. So I have two more on this side now. I used to have two. Now I have three. So the third one came into this because I used to have like a bookshelf shelving in here, and they used to feel really claustrophobic. And I was like, no, fuck, I can't do this. So I went on, like Gumtrees or something like that, something like where people shares their stuff. And I found this filing cabinet, and it was for free. So I asked my husband,
really,
if you don't mind your back, please bring me one. It's free.
Nice.
And he did, obliged, which is very good. But then I was breaking my back with my short boxes. So I was like thinking, surely I don't have that many comics, because then you have a bigger shelf. It's kind of, you have your short boxes on the shelf, and you're like, it's kind of deceiving. And you're like, yeah, I'll be fine. Like I have a strategy. I put them all on. And then I start taking all the boxes out of the shelving, and I end up having 15 of them, short boxes. It's like, what the fuck? What happened? Do I not know how to count? But instead of getting very disappointed, I managed to fill that new filing cabinet with probably 9 short boxes. So it really does.
The same size as the one that we can see behind you there?
It's wooden one, so it's slightly smaller. Okay. So it looks better, because my husband is like, it looks like this is shit. I was like, no, it's storage. For me, it's like, if I have something for storage, I'm fine. But that one just looks more like furniture, kind of. Like looks like a wood one. Like the first. I had a video where I showed, so kind of similar to that point anyway. So my idea is to have them shoved away first. My son is a very curious boy. He likes to touch every single thing. So I'm trying to basically hide them away from everything. And also, I have, I'm trying to find a solution how to use like less plastic. So I'm now realizing, after having those 2 filing cabinets, that storing your comic book, like 2 of them together with a cardboard between, it doesn't do anything to the comic books whatsoever. Actually better, because then you don't have a roll. I used to have, like, in short boxes, like sometimes you don't fill in, and then you have them bend kind of thing, because so now if I do that in here, nothing happens like this. So I'm really happy with what it saves me. Cardboard, it saves me plastic. It somehow the plastic doesn't deteriorate so easily. I actually, about 4 years ago, because I'm just doing the organization, 4 years ago, I got maybe like quite a bit of the Defenders. So single bag them, like another plastic one, and I removed them. And they were sticky. They were shit. I was like, oh my God, what the hell has happened? And this room in particularly, really cold, so it shouldn't be. We never have a blinds open, so it's kind of really good storage solutions, to be honest. So, and it was like in the boxes, covered, everything, like what you would expect to have, what people do when they store their comic books. And I was like, it's like just a couple of years old, what's going on? So every single plastic bag you buy, if it's different company, they put different stuff inside the plastic, apparently. So all of them reacts differently to any kind of conditions anyway. So, and then I'll compare them. So something I bought almost similar time with the different bags, and those bags are perfect. So that was like kind of drove me nuts. And I was like, I hate those tacky bags where it like sticks together like glue tape, and it's like, ooh, it's like it touching me. It's like makes it gross for my hands anyway. So yeah.
How many short boxes fit in the filing cabinet behind you there that we can see on screen? Approximately.
This one is approximately. It gets 2 sides, so you can divide them in 2, and at least 200 of them fits inside.
Oh wow! In each drawer.
No, 200. I mean, on one side. So
oh wow! On one side. Holy shit! Wow.
Yeah. So you can fit at least 8, like comfortably 8 short boxes for sure.
Shit,
inside there. But it depends of every single filing cabinet has a different space. It's kind of weird, like you would think they have they have similar dimensions, but somehow one, like this metal one is much wider than my wooden ones, so it has way more space. So yeah, it's just I've been doing this because this room has been bothering quite a bit. Now I actually found I remembered. Well, I didn't remember, but while I was organizing, I have one artist edition, which was what? I forgot about it. So Jack Kirby's Commandee's artist edition, I have it. Now I am displaying it. I can't show you guys. It's like my husband's like, this is supposed to be shown while you're doing the videos. He's like telling me what to do. It's like, sorry, but it's not like I can't shift the camera that way. So, but I changed a little bit in here, as you can see my action figures now on top of there. And you can see like a new Green Lantern. It's out of the box. And my son absolutely wants to touch that. It's particularly that one. It's like a green color. Like, give me. So I gave him once to... I let him hold it.
To destroy.
Yeah, I let him hold it for 5 seconds. And I was like, oh, it's the worst thing I've done. Why would I do that? Grow up a little bit. When you're a bit more gentle, I'll give it to you. Mm-hmm. But I have a couple of new books, which I have read. And one of my favorite is this.
That's a beauty.
This is it's as good as it gets.
Before you go on, can I just say I thought John DaCosta had a good idea he was talking about his own filing cabinets, but maybe we could do it with yours of doing some kind of graffiti art on your filing cabinets.
Oh, my son, you
like some really colorful, wild graffiti art would look cool on a filing.
That'd be amazing.
You can't see that, but my son has drawn on it quite a lot. So he has
that's
crack
a different
on it.
kind of graffiti.
Yeah. So I let him do. My husband's like, oh, don't do this, like. But he doesn't. It's funny. He doesn't like wooden ones. He likes this one. So he just goes bonkers on it. I can't even I have this like tags where whatever it is inside, half of them missing because he wants to take them. It's just like this.
You could magnetize pieces of paper there for him to draw on or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have I have the sticker paper.
A whiteboard on the side.
Yeah, on side. It's like I stick it up for him, and he wants to draw, but then he goes over the lines, of course. And you have the border.
Scott mentioned it as well, and there's a Facebook group that's Comic Filing Cabinets. I'm a part of that group, and some of the arts that people have done in that group, like they've hand painted and spray painted and done all sorts of things. Some guys do like comic style magnets, but some of the artwork people have done on their filing cabinets, beautiful. Like they look really nice, and then you see it in kind of their comic room, and it looks amazing. They've done some really nice paint jobs on it. Obviously, it takes a bit of time and some talent, but it can look really, really nice.
Oh, look, you guys telling me, I even tell my husband, I don't mind it. I don't care whatever the way it looks like. I care what's inside, like as long as you can store my comic books, I'm fine with it. But it's just me, like, of course I would prefer it to be like wood ones. They do aesthetically look much more pleasing, especially when you get them for free. Like, oh, it's free. So, okay, fine. Thank you.
Free is good. Yep.
It is very good.
Yeah, so my storage...
I wouldn't be able to not, though. When I have things like this up in my room here, I'd have the filing cabinets, and I couldn't... I'd have to do something just because that would just be... I'd want it to be like a, I don't know, maybe glow-in-the-dark paint. Who knows,
I think if it would be me by myself and my husband and no son, I probably would go graphically, and I will go like really take care of that, like the way it looks. But now having my son, and he is a little menace when it comes to everything else. Now he's that age where, like everything, whatever he wants just to touch. While I was doing organizing, I actually thought I'm going to have a bit of a heart attack, because he was just like dangling Wonder Woman comic books. I had some couple of them. It's like, picked it up because I had to store my comic boxes away. So in that sense, they were like, he picked them up and it's like, oh my God, this is it. I need to, like, I'm not going to look anymore because I don't know what's going to happen in those comic books. But thankfully, I managed to catch them in the right time before he managed to destroy it, because he's really keen. Very keen.
So, and Damien, like we've seen in a couple of your videos, most of your collection is in the basement. Is that right? Or do you have a couple of, assuming you have a couple of different spots, but the meat of it is in the basement?
Yeah, the meat of it, of the individual issues, is in the basement. And then I have a reading nook full of my hardback collection, which is so big it can't fit in all the shelves I have there anymore.
Yeah. And just comic boxes, right? I think is what you have in the basement, if I remember correctly.
Right. It would be nice to have filing cabinets. I mean, you put this idea back into my head. I know that a long time ago you did a video on your filing cabinets, and I thought about it then and then forgot about it. And now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I highly recommend to do those two thingies, like the comics, because then filing cabinets doesn't have that much weight from the cardboard. Cardboard itself, like I actually done one of the filing cabinets, the new ones, with just one cardboard, and the shelving space is so much lighter. It's like you can actually feel when when you pull, you can actually feel the weight of the drawer. So yeah. And it just, I don't know, it just works for me. I have had that first child filing cabinet when I made the video. It was like 5-6 years ago, maybe even, and it's still going strong and it's keeping my comic books away. It's dark and like that almost basement-y feeling. I actually was redoing the back, some of the stuff, because I was trying to save space basically, and actual comics were feeling so cold. It's like, Jesus, how cold is this room? Like it felt like really freezing weather. So it's like, it's perfect conditions. I guess that's the I'm saying. It's just your comic books away. It's a drawer. When you don't have a problem picking up your short boxes, you slide your drawers open. I have some milers as well. Those milers, I actually rebacked the milers, now Defenders, which I'm really happy about, those Silver Ages. It seems to be that the comic itself, it depends on the paper. I think they're saying that the plastic gets deteriorated much quicker. So it's a lot of like theories on how you can do it yourself. It's all about you, how you want to deal with it. But the way I deal in that seems to be very, very good. So far I'm not the plastics is worse for me, but there's some there's a certain company I used to get comic like bags before, and they were shit, like really bad. But now I'm consistently getting from that. I think like Terrence, you getting them, quite a lot of people getting the same. It's like a bag, black like Silver Age size of the comic bag, so I can always have a space between, like breathing space as they call it. But I would prefer, I prefer Mylar, because I have Mylar now for some books. I have them for like years as well, and Mylar doesn't look anything whatsoever problem with it. So I would love to have it. That means I will reduce the amount of plastic I have, basically. That's what the main idea. And I just hate throwing. I had like really quite a big rubbish bag of plastic, and I was like, what I'm gonna do with this? I was like, how do I biodegrade myself? But I can't, of course. So it's just me being maybe conscious of what plastics, how much I use it.
Well, I think using Mylar over the long run will reduce the amount of plastic you use. But.
Yeah, just don't. My goal is not to buy any more bags, like plastic bags. I only get them when my comic book sends me my comic books, just to secure it, I guess, I presume. And it's just like a favor kind of thing for me. I don't pay for them an extra whatsoever. So, but my goal is not to buy any more plastic bags. I can't take it anymore. It just pisses me off. This really drives me absolutely bonkers when I have to take them out. And I notice after a while, when you collect your comic books, you have your own system. I have my own system. It works for me. and I'm not going to tell everybody else to do the same thing. It just works for me in my area, I guess, how I deal with this stuff. But filing cabinets is a treat, because then I discover the books I want to. I don't have to forget what I had in this box, where I put it in the corner on a shelf. I never open it because it's too heavy and that kind of stuff. So, so that's why my week was like really organizing stuff. Yeah. But as I say, I read a couple of stuff.
Yeah, just going to give us one, and then we'll just keep going here.
Oh, you want me to start then?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you may as well. Yeah, just go ahead.
I read this.
Nice.
So it's 2 moons, and I like it. It hasn't given me much information, like you, Damon, said to me. It really does not discover, like you don't discover lots, but the art in particular is getting better for me in this comic book. This horses and the actions, the way how horses' emotions are really nice as well.
Yeah.
I pick all the small details. This stuff when he kind of like was hallucinating or whatever he was doing, that was spectacular.
Great.
Really trippy. So as I say, nothing really amazing on the storyline. He gets caught, he gets escaped. We have this female, as I say, we will have. I actually honestly wanted to have some back matter from the guy, like he had before, because I do enjoy that kind of stuff from the comic book. And the comic books have at the back. I'm the person who's reading it. I try to, especially if there's some information that's related to the things. But the next issue cover looks amazing, so I'm looking forward to it. I just hope it will pass more information when it did this one. It really did entertain me. I know I saw you reading that, so and as far as I'm into it. As I say, if they're gonna enclose more information, or it's gonna be more, like investment in the storyline, I'm definitely going to continue. But he picked up really good artists, and it really feels like the era, like that time of how where the story is telling. And I like the main character. So far, he's intriguing to me, especially with that, like, I don't know if it's ignorance or something what he's doing, but he's completely like trying to show away who he was before. And he's still trying to, he's in denial, and he's thinking he's going crazy, or like PTSD or something, from the war and stuff. But it's interesting.
Read it as he's not quite in denial. It's just that he wasn't brought up with his, he was brought up in a different world. So this is him kind of finding himself and coming to terms with his own history of his people, is how I was reading it. Because I agree with you, like the second issue was a blast, man. Like I really liked it. I'm glad both of you spoke about it, because I never would have picked it up. It's a classic example of I never would have given it a shot because I didn't really know anything about it. But hearing you both talk about it, I really dug it. I think we're in for a pretty good story as this guy kind of starts to come to terms of who he is and what that means with his people and what's happened with his people, and kind of finding out where he fits in all that, and it's cool, man. And I like the kind of the hallucination type of stuff where kind of the spirit world is talking to him. He's kind of really opening himself up to kind of that side of things, and something deep in him is calling out to him. I'm digging it. I thought it was a solid 2 issues.
All those creatures is coming in. All those creatures coming into the brain. His brain is really entertaining to me. I think I like that kind of sense of like not only you have like dead humans or somebody's talking to him and he's completely like goes freaking himself out. I'm not saying I think he being by saying being in denial, I think he's just afraid of what he can be, or what he heard what can be, because of he not living in that kind of life, because he was adopted by somebody. And I think that's what it feels like. But yeah, definitely, as I say, for me, is entertaining, good. And Arcudi knows, he does know how to drag you into the story. I mean, from reading whatever he's done with the BPRD, like he always have that kind of, like he's good at I think he's good at writer to do that kind of stuff. So he has an idea. He has a goal where he wants to take this character and whatever in the back matter he wrote, hopefully you will get there and you will be intrigued. That's the only thing I hope.
I do think he's kind of a more minimalist writer. Like, I don't, even when I read him in BPRD, I don't think he likes to explain things ever. You're going to have to figure out along with him, which, you know, sometimes annoys me, but I think I trust him to do a pretty good job of that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really good twist when suddenly he's being saved by Confederate soldiers who think he's one of them now. And the whole like denying his background, I mean, it's dangerous to be an Indian, right? It's not safe on the Confederate or the Union side for an Indian's in a precarious position. So he needs to convince people he's one of them all the time to survive. But then his Indian heritage is calling to him. Yeah. And I love that the coyote god had a very unique look, you know, that's different from many I've seen before. Yeah. So you're showing those different pictures, reminding me of all those things. Yeah,
as I say, he has really good artists behind him. So hopefully that's going to continue to have that mysterious part of it, and entertain us in the longer term. So.
That's cool. Right on. Yeah, I'm really glad I picked him up. I'm glad I gave him a shot. I figured, what the heck? Let's give him a shot. What about you, D? What do you got this week for us?
Well, unlike you, this was not like my best week for reading comics. It was plenty of good stuff, but I didn't think anything really stood out. The most recent thing I read, because I bought it at the comic store yesterday, was Comics International #2, which is something I've wanted for years since I was a kid, reading Spirit magazines and seeing ads for this. And I usually wait for sales, but they're just, with COVID, there haven't been sales at my shop. So I went ahead and paid the full $10 for this. And I'm actually really glad I did. I think what it was, this is from Warren Magazines from 1974 or so. And I think it was all reprints from other issues of their magazines. And even though it's before heavy metal, it seems kind of aimed at that audience, and that's why they call it Comics International, I guess. I wish there was more of like an introduction to it. There is at the back, they actually give bios of the artists, which is something you never see in Warren magazines normally. So, and it starts with three Richard Corbin stories. And one is him doing the Raven. And I know he's done the Raven more recently, the Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, and I know he's done it more recently, but it's just interesting to see the colors, even just the way they did colors at that particular time in Warren Comics was different than anywhere else. And then there's a story about the Antichrist at Christmas. And then, just even though it's Richard Corbin, there's this mobster story, which is just a crime story with a twist. Where the weird thing is they're Italian mobsters in New Orleans in the 20s or 30s. I forget what year they say it is. 1933. I didn't know if the Italian mob was in New Orleans, but maybe they were. But it's about some mobsters doing killing off the mob boss and doing bad double crosses on each other. But it ends with, well, I want to spoil the twist ending, but maybe I shouldn't. Of who the butcher is, who's going around killing everybody.
No, I say go for it, man. It's been a long time.
So the butcher turns out to be the priest that the person is doing confession to, that's telling the story.
Amazing.
And
that's such a classic kind of Italian giallo trope of the church being the one that's ultimately evil. That's fantastic.
Well, it's not quite that though, because in the first scene in the story, this priest is mutilated and then they think he's dead. So someone on page 1, or maybe it's page 2, someone on page 2 dies here, right there. And then shows up as the person who's killing everyone at the end. So it kind of combines a couple of different stereotypes, but it's not really about the church being evil in this case. But there is a theme throughout of all these mobsters who believe they'll go to heaven if they go to confession. which is interesting.
Mm.
So, if you're familiar with Catholicism, you know that as soon as you've confessed your sins, if you die before you commit more sins, you will go to heaven. And then there's 2 stories about Dracula as part of a traveling freak show circus.
Wow.
And each story is a tragic romance with kind of Dracula in the background. And at the end of one of them, the woman who's the wife of this guy who's going to kill people to try to give her longer life, because she's dying, she gets bitten by Dracula. On the very last page, we find out that Dracula's in the story. And she gets bitten by Dracula and becomes his lover, while her husband gets killed by one of the freaks after killing someone himself. So there are these kind of tragic love stories, and it's all drawn by Esteban Morato. I never know how to say his name. Morato?
I think so, yeah.
Morato. Yeah, it always sounds wrong to me, but
yeah.
I wonder if this was originally in color, but it's kind of interesting. And so it looks like they wanted to have an ongoing series where in each episode,
Beautiful.
Dracula and his lover and the circus come to a different town, and their lives intersect with some other couple in the tragic. It always ends in death. But it's one thing I've noticed about a lot of these Warren stories. I think, when they started in the 60s, they were writing them like EC comics, but they changed over time. And it's like, how do I put it? It's like they're writing these almost ethereal, distanced kind of stories that you're not plunged the way you normally are in comics. You're not plunged deep into the story. It's like the text is floating above it. So in the Dracula ones, all the text is from people's diaries and letters, which is the way Bram Stoker did his novel Dracula. But then there's there's something by Bernie Wrightson. I think he wrote it himself. There's no credits on it. You just can tell it's Bernie Wrightson, but it's called The Muck Monster, and it's told from the point of view of the monster even before he's alive. It's like the monologue of the failed experiment of the mad scientist that he couldn't bring life to is narrating the story. And so you're kind of distanced from everything in a lot of these stories with beautiful art.
Wow.
Amazing.
And really kind of mixed on how I feel about that writing style, but
yeah.
But this one is crazy where it's narrated by, so in fact, at one point it says, I just didn't want to come to life. I resented him. I resented his presumption about a higher power. I resented his attempts on my being. I did not want life, so I did not receive it. So he's just a corpse on a slab narrating the story. But eventually the mad scientist grinds him up and turns him into liquid, and he goes down the drain and into the cemetery and brings some corpses to life anyway.
Man.
That's
amazing looking stuff.
And then when he goes to meet his creator, it drives his creator insane. And the creature just goes off and lives at the top of a mountain and says, well, I'm just happy existing. And that's it. That's the story.
A couple of panels looks like Bernie stuff, like that.
Oh, it is. This story was written and drawn by Bernie Wrightson.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, of course. I thought I'm going to go mad. It's like, what?
No, yeah, that's definitely.
And one of those panels that you showed previously, it ended up being a cover for a Bernie Wrightson one from Eclipse.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Previous panels. Yeah.
Maybe they reprinted this story in it.
Yeah.
He used a couple of, like Frankenstein Alive. I think some of the panels is very reminiscent. That one,
it's very reminiscent of his Frankenstein work. It's kind of like he's doing a variation on Frankenstein here of his own.
Yeah. I think when it's black and white, it's much more detailed. When somebody colors his stuff, or he does it, I don't know if he did color that one. It looks a little bit less what he can do, like Bernie always had those crazy edge lines of ink, and you just couldn't just stop looking at it because he has depth already because of the artistic prowess this guy have. So but when you have color his stuff, sometimes you can it depends on the colors, of course, but you can disappear the detail, which is what is famous for.
And they just don't tell you enough. He might have colored this himself, and he might have known it was going to be in color. He might not have. I'm just not sure.
That's really good. Yeah.
Anyway, so this is full of lots of fun highlights. It doesn't read like most other comics read, but I love the art, and it's, I don't know, I like it for its differentness, which I was sort of thinking about today, how something seems really great at first when it's all different, and then you read too many issues of it and maybe it's less exciting.
For me, it's quite interesting that it's in color as well. So usually,
this was their like special publication.
I see. So it's like
when I was a kid, I saw them advertising this all over the place, and I think it cost more. And unlike all their other books, it was in color. Now they used to, especially with Richard Corbin, they would have color inserts. So they would often feature like a Richard Corbin color story in the middle of a regular comic. So I don't know if this gathers together all their regular color ones or if they recolored stuff. Well, they do mention people doing interior color, and they don't mention Bernie Wrightson.
Okay.
It also shows you who their star artists were that they would put in here, which were Richard Corbin with 3 stories, 2 stories from Esteban Morato, Luis Garcia, Reed Crandall, Jose Ortiz, who I like a lot, Wally Wood, and Bernie Wrightson.
Jesus.
I don't think they published a lot of Wally Wood, but they do have a Wally Wood in here, which does look a lot. I haven't gotten around to reading the Wally Wood one yet. It looks a lot like an EC story. There's the Wally Wood.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
But I think you have some of these comics international, Terrence, do you?
Yeah, I've got a few of them, yeah. They're not the easiest to find, and like you were saying, when I do see them, they tend to be pretty pricey, so I've only managed to find a few of them.
Yeah, for me, spending $10 on a used comic is a big deal. But although I bought my 2 most expensive comics in my collection are 2 Conan comics, and I finally pulled the trigger. Or did I talk about this last week? I pulled the trigger on Conan 23 because that's a key issue that's hard to buy. I mean, I paid $90 for that, which was so painful to do. But I was
in the room for one of the auctions where you bought a Conan book. I remember. I can't remember.
That's the other one. The other time I pulled the trigger and paid big bucks was to GPAP, to Gene Pauly's Peter.
That's right, GPAP. That's right.
Yes. He was having some financial crisis and he was selling off his. So I thought, well, if I'm ever gonna buy a nice copy of Conan #1, I'll buy it from GPAP. So I did that, and I probably got a better price than I would have at a store.
So, so you're saying that Red Sonja's appearances are what? Yeah, are they getting more expensive?
Number 23 of Conan is her first appearance, and it's quite expensive.
Interesting.
So my shop owner goes by pretty high prices and then gives me a discount. So he listed it at $130.
Wow.
And if it weren't, 9 point whatever, I think it would go for a lot.
Yeah.
He thought it was a 7.
Because I have that book, and I was like, remember when I wanted to get it? I'm cheap.
Yeah.
I buy stuff very cheap if I can. Like that's the first thing I'll do. But when I bought it, I didn't spend more than £20 on it. So I was like,
well, you got a good deal.
No, but it wasn't the time when it was going still crazy, because I don't know.
I've been putting off buying it for years, so it's been one of the more expensive issues for years. 23 and 24. 24 not quite as much, but 24 is pretty expensive too, because that's the first full Red Sonja. And then Conan #1 goes for a lot of money.
But I like number 24 cover. It's very reminiscent of #1. It has the browns and reds on it, which I really like because of Red Sonja. She's all red and stuff like redheaded. Right. And the way the
art in that issue is awesome. To me, that's the most valuable issue because it's got the best art in it.
Yeah, exactly. So, but as I say, I have both of them just because I liked the time there at Sonia have a really good kick on the Sonia. Anyway, a female, because it's female's first appearance. I was like, of course, I'm gonna have to have a look. And in that time, I managed to do so. I found on the website actually, and I was really dreading when I'm gonna receive it because when you buy on the website, you can see one, even though they say it's a scans. But thankfully, that place where I bought it from, the scans were true. So I even was comparing the scans because when I bought it, I basically saved, screenshotted the scan when I bought it because they, I don't know if it's going to disappear or whatever. So I was comparing the screen, like the screenshot I had, and it was having every single, whatever problems they had. It was the same. So okay, cool. I went paranoid a little bit in that time. I guess I was watching way too many of E.T. Nick's videos where really, can you actually see it kind of thing?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I got in a local auction recently. I got my very first issue of Red Sonja that I've ever had. Frank Thorne one.
Yeah,
I haven't read it.
Nice.
I flipped through it, but it's gorgeous stuff. Like his art has always been appealing to me, but yeah, this is kind of on the top of the pile to read next. But it's beautiful looking stuff. Like the guy was impressed. Here, let me push that button.
And he's like no one else is like him, or he's like no one else. So that's very special.
It really seems to be. Hey, yeah, he really has his own style, his own thing going on. Just the look in her face and stuff, and really, really nice.
Very intense.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one. It's the only one I have. I haven't really actively hunted any of them down yet, but I'm sure now that it's on my radar, we'll see what else pops up.
The Frank Thorne Red Sonja, if you like that, I actually start liking just his Red Sonja. Afterwards, I started having problems with somebody else trying to put too much curves, boobs too big, and stuff like that. It's she looks very nice, like that hourglass figure, as they call them, big kind of things. But it's emotions in Frank Thorne's Red Sonja is great. She's actually pissed off. She's actually fighting somebody. She's trying her best to do the stuff. But anyway, I just like Frank Thorne's Red Sonja, I guess.
Yeah, it's really nice. So one of the things from my stack, maybe we'll start here, especially because Ryan is in the room. Ryan wrote a article on this one as well too. One of the books that I read this week. Push that button there. Nurture the Devil, a 3-issue miniseries from Fantagraphics, and it really has that kind of, again, that 90s indie kind of style to it. What year do we have here? 1994 on this one. This was an interesting read. There was parts of me that felt like it was kind of that classic, we're going to push the boundaries to see how far we can kind of cleanse our id and put it on a page. But then there was also something that was a little bit kind of disturbing about it. There's this whole kind of power dynamic within the family with this father that's not very strong, to say the least, and the daughter kind of dictating, now that the mother is now passed away, the daughter kind of dictating how things are going to be run, and kind of it goes into some kind of sexual territory as well too. It's a hell of a read, because at the end, I mean, you do feel a little, there's something else that kind of seeps in throughout that seems like there's maybe something that's happening a little too close to home. And apparently the creator had some very troubling times, and this was kind of the one of the books, I guess, kind of the I mean, maybe if Ryan is in the room, he can fill in some of my gaps that I'm doing a horrible job of explaining, but just kind of things that were happening to this creator in real life that were kind of working its way into the text. Yeah, and went through gender. I'm bad with all of this stuff, so not necessarily reassignment, but man, yeah, I should know how to speak about this stuff, but I just don't at times like this. Went from becoming a man to a woman, I guess, is the best way. Not necessarily physically, although I don't know that. And then there's a little backup story called The Babies, a part 2. And again, the style is incredible, but there's just something to this book, right? Like, thank you very much, Ryan. Johnson was going through gender dysphoria at the time. Thank you, Ryan. A hell of a book, something I haven't seen before. It definitely puts this on my radar, where I do want to find the other couple of issues and give it a good solid sit down and read from front to back. As comfortable as that might be, maybe it's something you space out a little bit, maybe not reading it all in one sitting. But check out Ryan's Twitter, and he'll have link to where he does reviews. 4-Color Apocalypse, is that right, Ryan? And then you can read more about kind of the backstory of the creator to doing this book. But Fantagraphics, and again, it's just one of those things, seeing Fantagraphics and picking up Fantagraphics, not hesitating when you see that logo if there's a title I'm not familiar with. So that was a unique read. Definitely not the easiest read for sure, but I'm glad that I gave it a shot. So
what was the title of that again?
Nurture. It's called Nurture the Devil.
Nurture the Devil. Okay.
Yeah, and just a 3 issue. So Jeff Johnson is the creator's name, and yes, mature readers, absolutely mature readers. No two ways out. It's definitely mature.
Talking about Red Sonja, that's how much I like Red Sonja.
Oh, nice.
Oh, hey, beauty.
So I didn't remember I have 2 of them. Anyway,
those will be your retirement plan someday.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm exaggerating,
but that's what.
Those are good comics to have.
But that's why I said about browns and reds and stuff. But because of reminiscing of that.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before, but you're right. There's that theme.
Yeah, is this the same kind of similar stuff?
And I think Barry Smith colored that comic himself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like the way it looks, this one, and I like Sonja as a female. Also, found that I have that.
Nice.
Number 1 of the series what Terrence was showing. So.
Oh yeah, nice. Hold on, let me make that bear again. 1 sec.
Yeah, so
Oh yeah, sweet.
it's fantastic looking stuff.
Frank
Very
Thorne's
good.
Awesome.
Yeah, and also I was like picking out all the, and I picked up the same time this too, because there's Elric, and I was getting into Elric stuff. So this is first appearances of Elric, isn't it?
In the Conan sagas that I sent you, Terrence has those 2 Elric issues in them, which is why I picked those issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reprints them in black and white.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's number 14, 15 of that.
Yeah, I love the Elric by Barry Smith.
Yeah. So when I was getting that, as I say, I was getting into stuff like Red Sonja's, like I looked it up, and of course Damien was influenced because of Elric's and stuff and Conan's and stuff. It's like, okay, and I was find out that those stuff, like in Conan, there's this Elric stuff coming up. And there's both stories in here anyway of it. So I just wanted to. That's the beauty now. I can go into my filing cabinet, slide it out, take it out where I want. Just like, I can show you to you guys stuff. So yeah.
And that's the thing that would be the main draw for me to go filing cabinets, because I'm still on the fence about it. I'm not completely committed yet, but that would be a thing, like just that accessibility, I think would be fantastic. Instead of finding the box, taking the shit that's on top of the box, moving furniture out of the way, just pull the drawer open, pull the book out. I think that would be great.
I have an idea, but I'm not sure how much you are in DIY. You know those shelvings you have?
Yes.
So you need the same size of your plywood shelving on top, but then you install the railings so you can actually slide them out. The boxes. Yeah. That's another solution. That's what I was thinking, because I have that. Idea. I have that shelving the same in here behind me. I was thinking maybe I can, like, because I like DIY. It always ticks for me. What can I do? How can I make my life be easier with comic books and stuff like that? So I always tinker around. But filing cabinets, honestly, especially you can find them like I do for free, that
Yeah.
helps.
Well, that's the thing. I might, because we swapped some out at our new office with ones from our old office, and then maybe getting rid of the ones from the new office that don't quite lock. So I'm thinking that I might have an opportunity to get some free filing cabinets, because again, that would be a huge drop as well. Not having to pay for it would be a more incentive to pick them up.
Yeah. It's just like after a while, like it feels like the more I use them, the more I like them. Like it's just the easiness of that and finding things. Like, oh, I feel like reading like Preacher and stuff like that. Like I can go open a drawer. The drawer you take those Preacher stuff, whatever you have, and just read it. I don't know. I'm preaching about it now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Usagi Ujimbo.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know now, after Damien was talking about that mulch thing, it bothers me. I want to know what's this all about, because it's been mentioning twice in the stories. Like, and I just hear your voice all the time. It's like, what is it? Anyway, this story is always as entertaining as always. And the story about the teacup. And how it went with Samurai and Usagi Jimbo, how he, going from, there's always the destination where they need to go, and while they were traveling, they are coming upon the enemies of a Rhino Samurai. I forgot this. I don't know if he's mentioning the name. Yeah, it is mentioning the name, but I forgot now. But it's very entertaining. It's such a light read, but it's full of like story of life, and also like fight scenes, and like good, the bad, how Usagi is trying to help, how this Rhino seems to be a bad guy in a way. You would think always cares about himself, but then you find out slightly like background, and you have orphan kids and what happens to orphan kids. Right. It's just a really good story. Like it feels good. You feel as I say, after reading, I always feel very satisfied. I don't know. It doesn't have overcomplicated storylines, but it also like teaching moments, which is the best part in here. There's the moral part here, and I really like that in comic books. And then this Peach Momoko covers, she's killing it with them, eh? And that next one is just, it looks so feminine though. Yeah, Usagi Yojimbo's like has that really pretty rabbit in here. So yeah, absolutely love it. And there's one more issue. I don't know how many Wanderer Roads there will be.
I'm assuming they'll keep, like every 6 issues, they'll rename the reprint series, and they'll continue to do it, because I'm enjoying it as much as the new stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely fantastic. And
it's amazing that he was so good back then and he's still so good now. I mean, you don't see that so often.
It's great. I mean, as a fan of Turtles, I don't know why I've never went for Usagi. It bothers me now. It's like, what's wrong with you? If you like Turtles, you surely are going to enjoy this. And I really, really do now. All this like little, in like investing in just a story like that's Wonder Road or whatever it was before, and you're seeing it really, really entertained me a lot, thoroughly. And it always feels so good after it. I don't know. Sometimes really sad stories he tells, but it always shows the good light. Somehow I don't know. It's just that good feel factor. He does with the storylines I really like. So it's refreshing in comic books. Not always you have fight scenes. I mean, they have fight scenes and stuff like that. You have the sorrow, you have the happiness, but somehow after that, you're reading, you feel like it's a good day. After that, it's just, if you feel sad, I think this comic book can make you happy again. It just lets you be good. Somehow you want to be a good person after reading.
And he can do sentimental stories without it being too sweet and sticky or saccharine.
Yeah,
and I like that.
Yeah,
you don't feel cringy like when he's telling the story. Some like people overly think about the storylines, but this is just happy-go-lucky stories with. Yeah. Sometimes even actually very sad. So
even the very sad stories, somehow you feel good to an extent reading them.
Yeah.
So
typing and posting and doing all sorts of stuff here. Carry on, Damien. Go for it.
Yeah, well, I've been in the comments linking all kinds of Ryan C's websites. The guy writes he's got what's the word? Not graphomania, but some kind of mania for writing, except that he writes really well. So if you like reading essays about comics and movies and other things, he's just a great person to follow. I actually am one of his patrons on Patreon and it's the best Patreon I do because I get to read 3 new essays every week by him. But you can still get a lot of him at his regular website, the 4-Color Apocalypse. So all the links are in the comments for people watching later. Let's see, what do I want to talk about next? I'm going to talk about one I didn't really like, and maybe this will be sacrilege to some people like Ryan. I'm starting to think I don't like Gilbert Hernandez anymore. There's this flip book. I was really excited to get it. Hypno Twist on one side, Scarlet by Starlight on the other. I didn't think either of them were that good. And I think it's a 2001 book. I don't know if they were printed. Well, they came from a 2010 Fantagraphics book, or one of them did. An abridged version of Hypno Twist was in. I liked Hypno Twist a little better, but Hypno Twist is kind of like a free association of ideas visually. There's no dialogue, and so it's an interesting little experiment. Perhaps if I read it first, but in the end, I couldn't really figure out what it all meant. And I used to think that I liked Gilbert Hernandez best, and I really liked his sense of magical realism and stuff. You get the naked women and naughty stuff if you like that. So Hypno Twist was okay, and then I thought that this one, Scarlet by Starlight, was quite dumb and disturbing at the same time. So I don't know if I think they're on another planet, but maybe they're just in some imaginary lost jungle or something. There are these scientists. It's kind of fun how they dress like they're in some kind of 50s comic book in their weird outfits. These are the scientists, and they're studying the strange animal life in the area, some of whom look kind of like these werewolf-like creatures, and others... And these are the children werewolf-like creatures. And there's another kind of creature. Oh, here they are. These creatures there. So they're studying them, and the woman is very interested in one of the hot guys. These creatures attack the other woman, and the werewolf man saves her. I can't remember. I don't know. I'm not doing a good job of describing it because I didn't really like it. But essentially, eventually, the man does the naughty business with the werewolf woman, and then the werewolf man kills her. And here you go. It's pretty graphic for those who like that stuff. And meanwhile, so the werewolf man kills her and brings her head. And the other guy, the other scientist, their leader, rapes and kills the werewolf children. But then I think he gets killed himself. And they go back to civilization, and they don't. Yeah, here he kills himself after he's raped and killed the werewolf children. And I'm calling them werewolf children, but that's not what they really are. And then they go back and honor him and don't tell people about what he did for his trailblazing work. And the story ends where the girl dresses up now like the werewolf girl, and they happily ever after have a good sex life. I don't know. I also did not like his comic. What was it called? Blah Blah or something like that, which was just a series of rape scenes and stuff. Blubber was a series of like weird creatures raping each other. So obviously he's letting his id out of the closet completely.
Fairly intense, no doubt.
But I don't know. I just didn't get very much out of these stories. And I was kind of excited going in that, I've got 2 sort of novellas, so to speak, by Gilberto. But yeah, maybe he's progressed to an area that I'm not interested in. But it feels like there's the element of these peculiar sexual fantasies, and then there's a really dumb story around it to be an excuse for it, maybe, or maybe it's supposed to be a satire joke on scientists exploring other worlds, but it didn't land with me, if that's what it is.
Yeah.
And usually I don't
just from your
come on the show.
Maybe that's what it sounds like for sure. But I mean, it definitely feels like it might have been a little too kind of extreme. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, it was more. There's the extremeness, which I can appreciate, but then there's what are you doing with the extremeness? What's the point of it? And I just didn't. It was all kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge joke in the end, I suppose. Haha. His girlfriend dresses up like the animal woman that he used to sleep with, and now he's happy, even though she's dead. and their honored co-scientist is a molester and a suicide and a murderer.
Yeah.
It's I wouldn't. Especially when it comes to
making things up as he goes along as a kind of literary experiment, I suppose.
Yeah, rape. When the rape involved in the comic books, I tend to think what is the, if it's the storyline, that's what it needed to have, that part of it. Right. But I mean, at the end of the day, you can disclose whatever information you want to anybody, and you can do whatever work you want. But it's one thing you're using that as a storyline, and number one is to actually tell the story. Not just like if it's like a joke, I would be probably pissed off after reading that as well, because at the end of the day, maybe it's a subject matter of what he's trying to say. But yeah. I wouldn't be happy either, because what you were just telling me is like, oh my god, is it getting worse? Okay, she gets killed. Okay, that's bad. Okay, and it's like worse from worse for worse, and then it's just a joke after that. It's just like, it just doesn't sound very appealing. I'm not getting that book. Thanks for telling me not to do that.
I mean, artists should explore what they're driven to explore.
Oh yeah,
and I'm going to be more careful buying his books just because I felt like I kind of wasted my time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good point. They're completely entitled to explore what they want to explore, but we're also completely entitled to not spend the money on their explorations. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, explore whatever you want to explore, but I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah. In part, it's just because that was one of the major things I read this week that I'm mentioning it. And also, I just had I was all excited to get a book by him, and so I need to change I used to think, well, I want everything that he did, and then when he did that Blubber comic, I got 2 issues and I said, well, I don't really want Blubber. And now I guess maybe I just in general have to sort of think about whether I want his new work anymore or just read his old work.
Yeah, I think I have 2 or 3 issues of Blubber, and because they were cheap, I couldn't tell you the first thing about them, thinking back to them, you know what I mean? But I'm not rushing out to try to find the issues that I'm missing, you know what I mean? Like, they showed up, I got them, I looked through them, I put them away, so didn't really stick with me, Kind of sticking with more of the kind of indie or whatever, two books that really resonated with me that I read this week were the 2 issues of Frank that I got from Jim Woodring. And man, I've raved about him. Jim Woodring as an artist before many times, but sitting here and there's a level of immersion in comics with no matter what it is that you're reading. There's a different level of immersion in a Jim Woodring comic. Like when you sit and kind of really look at that panel, especially with his line work for the backgrounds and things, there's a way that it draws me into the book like nothing else that I read. especially when it's these kind of surreal landscapes and these surreal worlds that he's playing with and playing with elements of dreams, even in so much as kind of scenes changing very dramatically, you know, and things just kind of unfolding in front of you. But man, his line work is just see if there's another. There we go. His line work is just exceptional. Like, I love to see him creating a panel like that with the backgrounds, the way he defines those clouds, and then when you get a close look at just the lines that make it up and the different thicknesses that he's playing with. It's something like revisiting his stuff, and especially with something like this where it's completely wordless. There's no dialogue throughout any of the Frank books, and it completely sucked me in. I don't really know what I've read. I don't really know what's going on. I know enough that I'm just being led, and you know, as he just kind of draws us through. And then two of his characters, Pup Sean Pushpaw as well here. These two characters rather. I don't know, no gender here. Don't know. But he also did a kid's book, like a hardcover, with those two characters that I think Lillian has in her room, and color a nice short little hardcover book that's the same thing, just wordless, as you kind of just follow them through their day as they just do things, you know what I mean? Whether that's tormenting some frogs, trying to sit peacefully on the water with their mouths open. It's really beautiful work. And I mean, if you haven't experienced some Jim Woodring stuff, anything, pick up absolutely anything. It doesn't matter. There's a whole collected edition of the Frank work. I think it's in hardcover and it's in softcover. That's a great place to start because it has all of these issues, and then it has some backup stuff as well too. But just his imagination when creating some of these characters that you're seeing, and this idea of there's a lot of, someone brought it up, I don't remember which video it was in, it might have been the kayfabe one, I'm not 100% sure, but there's a lot of characters moving through doorways, and openings in kind of space and in the air, so it's this constant movement from one kind of reality to another. In the back of this one, we get a short color strip. I showed this off when I was talking about the book earlier too last week, but man, beautiful stuff. And I'll just continue to rave about his work because there's really nothing else I've experienced like it. It's another, like Frank Thorne, this is a guy who's completely got his own voice. Yeah, sure, he's drawing on comics, and yes, his style does kind of change in some of the books, especially stuff that's maybe a little more biographical. And I say that in a very loose way. He's a character in the books, but it's not necessarily kind of his day-to-day. There's still a dream-like quality to the whole thing and a very kind of surreal elements at play. So yeah, beautiful series. And I'm looking forward to, I need to find the other ones. I thought I had another issue of this one. Turns out I don't. So this is the only two that I have from the Frank. I think it was only a 4-issue mini series as well too. So, but not when I come across that often. It was nice to uncover these at the New Comic Shop last weekend.
This art, it reminds me of that game, the Cuphead. I wonder if he would have worked there, because he has so much the same similar sense of, you know, like the lines, the way the characters are walking, and that game is very famous for that kind of thing. And I love it just because of that. I only played the game because of that, because the art style is so good. And I was just like, I could not believe actually in game you can actually have such a beautiful art, you know, in scenes. It's just like you playing cartoon and you continue playing that. It has all those, you know, the sounds and stuff like that, which I absolutely love. So yeah, that art style definitely reminds me. Do you think he would have worked on it somehow, or somebody got inspired by him?
I mean, he may have been an influence for sure. I mean, those guys, I think they were more influenced by like Fleischer cartoons and things. And it was the same with us when we played that game. That's the main reason why we played it. I saw that art and said, I like video games, but I need to play that game just to experience that. But yeah, there's definitely that kind of a feel. Maybe Woodring is kind of pulling from that era as well too. And
now
so,
that you say Fleischer, I see it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would love to get those ones digitally to be able to see each panel blown up on my iPad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And his use of his way that he creates these almost like spirits, these kind of characters that show up, they're almost like gods in this world, right? But I mean, even like rendering that smoke there is incredible stuff. But yeah, those characters, he dabbled in some toys as well too, some like, vinyl toys, that sort of thing. I found some online. I was just looking at them. They're too much money. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on those kind of things. But even that, seeing the world and his sculpture in kind of this 3-dimensional form is beautiful stuff. Yeah, he's a hell of an artist, man.
Very good. I always like to see that when you show it. It's like, oh yeah, that's the cat. He's back.
And there's no ring. There's no dismembering in here. So that's a bonus
good.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a happy-go-lucky one this time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You need sometimes that. So I finally reached the elusive issue of Brubaker and Phillips. What I realized, so the first 2 volumes of Hawkman is all drawn by and not drawn, but written by Jeff Johns and drawn by Reg Morales. And after issue 26, there's a different writer. I forgot the name. I actually can check in this tablet. So I was like really excited, and I finished issue 25. That's my point is I finished in 25. I was like, so where is it? Where is it? Why is it not the same? So, and I realized that Jeff Johns only written 2 first volumes of this Hawkman series. But anyway, so I finally reached this elusive, the Brugabakers and Phillips one Hawkman story, which was fascinating. So after the first couple of panels, I wasn't getting into it. I was like starting to get disappointed. The art looks okay. It doesn't look like Sean Phillips has, that sense of him in here. But the story had a backstory, and when you have that, you straight away know it's Sean Phillips art in here, and the story is it's really good. It goes back in time, of course, in those because of the Hawkman's history of him having past life. So he has his past life in here as well, and still the same San Roch town in Louisiana. But this time he's kind of like a detective guy in here, and finding like there's smugglers and stuff like that in the storyline. What was interesting to see is how they will take the storyline. And at the first I wasn't really keen, but Ed Brubaker won with me because of the era, I guess. And I really like that kind of period of time. I definitely wouldn't want to live in that period of time, but I really enjoy reading it about it. So it was cool, like you have your gangsters, people stealing this jewelry stuff and stuff. So very good, entertaining, laugh story once again, because you have this female who is a singer, and apparently I thought so where's Ken, like a Hawk Girl, but apparently she was the Hawk Girl of that time of the era, because they had completely different names to whatever they, you kind of what I'm familiar with. So I was a bit confused at the time. But seeing that it's very dark, even though in digital it feels very dark. But I guess it does portray the time of the era of the story. And you can see the crack. See, Terrence, there's a crack in there as well. So yeah, very good.
My tag showing up in old comics. I love it.
Yeah, and you can, as I say, very good, entertaining story of the Hawkman. And then, to my surprise, on issue 28, Jimmy Palmiotti, Jean Grey, and Sook is on creative team, and that's who's gonna take over the Hawkman series for a bit, as far as what I've read and reached. And this is actually, I was thinking Jeff Johns' 2 first volumes were great, but Jimmy Palmiotti's and Gray's storyline is capture my interest in Hawkman even more, because it has this story. The first 4 issues of their writings. It has a story of like a terrorist and stuff taking over, and then there's the consequences. People are of course trying to kill. There's this killer who's killing people. Apparently they are infected, and we find out, it rounds out really nicely at the end of the issue. I remember which issue that was. Issue number 31 or something like that, of the storyline, where it's basically rounds up and you find out that the person who was trying to terrorize was apparently murdered, but then he turned into this like creature who starts seeing that he's like having kind of like I don't know how to say it. He has this like because it's like oh my god, I'm losing. I don't know how to say it. It doesn't happen often, but basically he's turned into this creature who is infected and sees people infected, and he wants to do the god job, basically what he does. But then they realize who it is, and of course Hawkman and Hawkgirl decides how to deal with them. And that's the way the creature looks. It looks like Swamp Thingy, because he drops into swamp as well after accident in the lab.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminded me of that as well, which was like, oh no, don't do the Swamp Thing story. But then it turns out to be that he's completely, like it's more gross and gnarly, to be honest. But the very captivating storyline. So I really enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna be this if he could continue this way of writing in further stories of this Hawkman series, I'll be definitely into it for long run. And I'm now understanding that they are famous for Jonah Hex as well. This is the same creative team, Jamie Palmiotti and Gray. And this Ryan Sook's art, because I don't know what Ryan Sook's art is, but somehow I felt like he's more like futuristic, but in here it's very like, maybe it's just a DC style of stuff. But Hawkman looks menacing as always. They still having huge issues together with Kendra, but the art is really good and the coloring is nice and entertaining. And then, as I say, this Jim Palmiotti creative team with Gray is really good, and thoroughly makes me more continue, because like sometimes when you change of creative team, you start to lose the interest. Because Geoff Johns' run was, I enjoyed it. I mean, I kind of got what I wanted from what he usually writes about, but it's very entertaining with Jimmy Palmiotti. It seems to be they want to take the Hawkman stories a bit more into different side, like not only about their pasts and everything. We can have the different bad guys and good guys, and he's trying to fall in love with this female, like other females, like this girl. He was trying to fall in love, but she was killed because that creature. So, and then it looked like the one issue love story for Hawkman, and he was so happy about her, and she's dead. Because he's not allowed to, basically, of his fate of like him and Hawkgirl have that what do you call that? I don't know. Curse. There you go.
Curse.
Yeah. So they have a curse upon them where they have to be lovers in order to pass their lives, blah 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 blah, and then they intertwined in their own future and past and present. And so he's trying to his best, because Kendra is like younger, they don't get along, and he's looking for something else. Basically, he's lonely, Hawkman. Like he's trying to live, and he doesn't want to lose any more people because of this, so many past lives and memories. He remembers how many people he lost behind, and it's difficult for him to continue, like that same circle, and it just unravels.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that popped into my head, the other bonus of Palmiotti's Jonah Hex, I think there was a couple of Darwin Cook issues as well too during that run.
I bet, because Darwin Cook was doing the stuff in DC for a while in that time era when they were doing it as well. But the Hawkman series, honestly, after those two first volumes, after I was like reading, and I was like, like having second thoughts. Maybe I will not gonna like it, but really good, and I am enjoying it. And I think this creative team is really good, like entertaining, and the issue I'm looking forward to as well. Deadman is involved.
Oh, sweet, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Which is absolutely something I will, of course,
Cool.
gonna look forward to reading. And so it's quite a few. I mean, I think it's about. I think there's about 50 or 49 issues of Hawkman, and I think as far as I did research, those series turns into Hawkgirl as well for that volume. Like DC does some, like, they're trying they things and maybe didn't work or whatever, or the people got fed up and blah blah blah. Only thing is, the first 2 volumes of Jeff Johns cover artists were spectacular. Every single cover, it's just mind-blowing. This one is good, but it's just the typical kind of like DC covers, like for the era. But with the first volume, it's just like those painted covers. It just stands out, like when you can see it, like the couple of stuff I have on covers. If they are painted, I tend to notice more, like Vertigo's, like Glenn Fabry last week we were talking about, and I was just looking at it and it's like, oh, and I was like, why I'm taking it out? It's like, oh, I can't stop. It's just like I want to see all the covers again because of the beauty of art in there. So Hawkman still continues entertaining me, and I'm really glad. I mean, I'm just finding out more about, like, I was hesitant about that Jimmy Palmiotti, Jonah Hex. I don't know why. I know people liking it, so definitely I would be going that. So hopefully after this Hawkman run of mine, I will go for that. Yeah. But it's difficult in paper. Like, I was looking for single issues, of course. And they really, because it's a popular run, it seems to be that DC hasn't reprinted them. Or if they have, those trades are quite pricey now because they're out of print. It's like, why do they keep on talking about dogs in the chat? What's going on here? While I'm chatting, they talk dogs. Like, what am I missing out?
Came in and said, "Hi, I'm looking for the Anonymous Dorks reunion. Is this it?"
Oh, yes, it is.
So I said, this is the non-anonymous dorks organization.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shh, don't say I'm dog.
Our faces are showing.
I'm in denial.
We are the coolest people in the universe.
Ooh, that title.
People don't understand us, that's all. In the future, we'll be looked at as extremely cool. Right now, they were just misunderstood.
Oh. Shame on them. They won't get to know us.
We secretly rule the world by reading Hawkman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Did you want me to share this other one at this point?
Yes, I have followed Rasa into the Hawkman swimming pool.
Well, see, that's
but
what
I only got 3 issues so far. I found a digital source. So I've only read the first 3 issues of Jeff Johns and Rags Morales' run. And it's funny because I just read this week his new comic. What's it called? Geiger.
I heard.
There's about as much story in Geiger, which is 30 pages long, as in 5 pages or less of this Hawkman book. So this is before Jeff Johns discovered decompression. So even though there's, lots of big pictures and stuff and some wordless panels, you get a lot of story out of here. Yeah. And it's deep pulp, right? It's like you're on the trail for some ancient relic MacGuffin, and you discover you're in India. Let me get to the... Sorry, I don't have a good way to skip through the pages, but they go to India, right? And they find this magical land where all these creatures out of Indian mythology, Hindu mythology are...
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
But they're superheroized. That they're comicized versions of... I think it's just on the last page of this issue, actually.
Oh, there you
go. But it is so pulp. I was amazed. It makes me realize how much Jeff Johns and the rest of the comic book writers have changed since when was this? 20 years ago or so? 15 years ago?
2006, I think, isn't it?
2006. So about 15 years ago, the writing has really, the style of writing in comics has really changed more than I realized. You don't notice when it happens incrementally. And you go back and read something like this, and it's a lot of fun.
There's one thing I didn't mention when I was reading this. It seems to be the Rag Morales' art in here. It looks like he didn't think he's gonna continue doing more issues. It seems to be so well looked after, kind of thing. You know, like I want to show off. I want to continue.
A lot of time spent on it.
Yeah, and then they just stand out like those gods. Look at it. It's just the way, the details, it seems to be so precise, and I really like Rag Morales' art now because of this reading issue, this stuff. So, and he continues to issue 25 with him, and no other artists joining him. So it's really good feat having an artist who is able to do backgrounds and everything else. So
yeah,
fantastic.
This is old school art too, right? He's not doing his art assuming the colorist will do the background or something.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I really like Rag Morales' art, and I'm having fun with the pulp. So my main reaction is just I was surprised at how deeply pulpy it was. And a thing I've noticed a lot that I realized what I like about comics 15 years ago compared to now in terms of the superhero comics is their modern. There was a good panel. Modern superhero comics are very apocalyptic. Like the current Hawkman run, it was kind of pulpy too, but it was all about this sect that he was a part of in his first life that went around destroying worlds constantly. And in the climax, they come to Earth and they're going to destroy Earth. Here, it's just about saving a museum and a few bad guys and stuff like that. And it's kind of a huge relief just to do this story that the stakes are on a smaller scale. So I feel like the superhero comics they need to get back to this a little bit, but that's, that may be just me. So I don't know. The storyline in the first 3 issues is not resolved. So I don't know how long the storyline will go, but I only got 3 issues, or maybe part of the way into the next issue. Yeah, I read a little bit of that.
I think it's like 6 issues or 5.
Because this digital trade is 16 issues, which is a little daunting. It's a lot. It's a big chunk. And I have it for a month from the library, so I have to read all 16 issues before the month is up.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I wasn't going to bring up Geiger. Actually, it was an okay comic, but it is radically different. When you read this, it's like that's the same writer. I was just shocked. And actually, Gary Frank's a pretty detailed artist, but when you compare it to the old art, the backgrounds are kind of skimpy.
Very.
But anyway. So, I can't tell people whether to get Geiger or not. A lot of people like Geiger.
So
to me, there's just not enough story yet to even tell.
So as a writer,
it's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Which I'm getting a little tired.
So as a writer, Geoff Johns, what do you think about him? Like, did you have what kind of opinion you had before? Because I have Geoff Johns. What I've read from him before Hawkman is all Green Lantern. And Green Lantern seems to be his kind of thing for
That's
really long.
Famous for.
Yeah, then it's very long time been written, and lots of the Green Lantern fans just wanted him to be, because it seems to be that he managed to establish the universe to what it is now in DC universe, because he had this black, huge sagas of Green Lanterns. So for me, when I was reading this, it actually was as kind of similar to what he was doing in Green Lanterns of the story, a lot of panel, a lot of reading to do. Because haven't actually read anything, don't remember or recalling recent, those Geigers. I haven't read Geiger either, but I haven't yet, because I only familiar with him how much he writes, but I like what he's doing, seems to be the Green Lantern stuff. That's why I kind of like it, I think, Green Lanterns as well, because I'm familiar with his writing. Blackest Night, which everybody is raving about, as I'm surprised, because I'm a fan of Green Lanterns, but Blackest Night it just came and passed me. I didn't feel as entertained, even though it was great saga to read, but there were so many it was so long. The main story contains like 8 issues, I think, or 12, like like your maxi series. But then the whole thing, whatever happened behind it, was like 50, 60 or whatever, 70 issues. It was crazy. But for me, it seems to be Hawkman's story of his writing was good enough. Like from the beginning to the end, those 2 volumes I read of him. The ending I'm iffy about. I'm not gonna say anything. You need to finish if you want to continue. But
yeah.
But in generally, it was really entertaining to find out about the character itself. So
I have not read Jeff Johns from this era, so I have not read his famous Blackest Night stuff. I read a little bit of him in New 52, at which point he was extremely decompressed, and 6 issues would read like a short chapter. And I tried reading Doomsday Clock.
Oh yeah.
Horrible. And then I read his 3 Jokers. So I haven't read a lot of his stuff. 3 Jokers was not decompressed. And that was like a decent Batman story. Not, like the major event it was supposed to be. But so I just don't know enough about Jeff Johns, really.
To have an opinion.
To have a overall view. But it is nice to see here in some things that Terrence was showing on screen about Ryan mentioning the old school pulp writers. I feel like comics were still connected to the pulps, like even in the 70s and to some extent in the 80s. But all those writers in the 70s grew up reading pulps and reading reprints of pulps in the paperback books that we all read back then. And I think the modern writers are more seeped in TV script writings ideas than in pulp fiction writing ideas. And maybe it's because I grew up with all that pulp stuff. I like it. But it's interesting to see that Jeff Johns then bridges the gap, because he does seem more like one of those TV influenced people now. But maybe back, he definitely is in touch with those pulp roots. And although Ryan mentioned, compared the pulp writers to Stan Lee, even Stan Lee was seeped in those pulp roots as kind of part of the culture he was writing into when he wrote comics. And many comic book writers, when they went and wrote prose books, they basically tried to write pulp series and stuff. Even Chris Claremont, he wrote pulpy science fiction novels when he tried to break into being a novelist. He didn't go and I don't know. I can't imagine Ed Brubaker doing that, for instance. Ed Brubaker, if he wants to be a novelist at all, would probably write a very literary mystery novel with very distanced from old school pulp. Although he's pretty versed in pulp mystery stuff.
For sure, yeah.
Jackie was mentioning that Jeff Johns' run of Flash is good. I think the first volume is amazing of Flash. And that's I just remembered what I read as well of this. Now Jackie reminded me of. So his first volume of Flash, which I read, I really liked it actually from point on and continuously in. And it's actually lots of people are liking it. And I think there's this theory, or maybe it's in my head anyway, but they're saying the minute Jeff Johns got the title and the things after he's writing it, his writing just went down the hill from that point on. I'm not down a hill, but not as the same. He just lost that the thing what he wanted. He wanted to impress maybe before, like those writers are trying to get the names going up to the level. You get to that level, but do you continue having the same things? Or he's just too busy in his head wondering what else he's going to do, or maybe in TV, or being in charge of everything else, so maybe responsibility is what's dragging him down in storylines now. So
and Comic Board mentions writing to the trade, and that is probably new in the past 15 years also, which has affected the way they write. But I think they've what's the guy's name, like Robert McKeever or something like that. Some guy wrote a famous book on how you're supposed to structure your screenplay, and everybody in Hollywood reads it. And I think all the comic book writers now kind of use his kind of advice rather than the old pulp or literary kind of rules.
I think Scott has kind of nailed it though. The pulp writers, like, there's an era where there's there's a lot more influence. They're reading a lot of varied things. So I
True.
hear this all the time about like writing for the trade. I don't know if that's necessarily, you know, I'm not an expert on anything, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think it's more so that they're just not doing a variety of things. And I think you nailed it, Damien, like with that idea of writing for TV, writing for film, because that would have been things that maybe influenced them more than, you know, reading a bunch of different authors and going back, you know, within different genres and that sort of thing, like a wide kind of range of material that they were pulling from. It just seems like maybe that range is just more limited what they're pulling from, and they're all just pulling from the same thing. So then plus you have the modern writers who they're then now reading those comics that were kind of based on a more narrow window. Right. So it's narrowing it down even more. I think the writing for the trades that's just more a structure. I don't know if that has anything to do with the breadth of this material that they're writing about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the writing for the trades may have an effect on the decompression aspect of it. Mm-hmm. But I think it is an even more important point that the previous generations, their world was seeped in books, and books came first. Movies and TV and comics also came second. Mm-hmm. And now I'm guessing if a comic book writer goes to write a science fiction comic, they may be thinking about other science fiction comics, but even more, they're thinking about what science fiction movies are out there. Whereas Jack Kirby, he read tons of just the science fiction of the day and was drawing all kinds of ideas from that, metamorphosizing it as he did so. But whereas I think most of these modern writers, if they have read some science fiction books, are not thinking of that. It's not what's in front of their head more. More about the Matrix than A.E. Van Vogt or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
For better or worse. Cool. I mean, there's good and bad things about everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think that's important to say. It's not saying that one is better necessarily than the other, because there's things that be done really well, no matter what your influences are. Just, you know, it's a whole bigger picture, bigger puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
But the Hollywood IP, I think, is a big one. Yeah, for sure. That seems to be a thing for sure. There was talk of romance comics earlier, and one of the things that I picked up recently was a 4-issue series from Image from, I don't remember what year this was, called Twisted Romance. And the main reason I picked it up is for, let's see here, as I shuffle things around, was for this creator, Sarah Horrocks, Horrocks, who I'm a fan of, bought some of her stuff from her website, I don't know, a year or two ago. And each issue is kind of a flip issue with a couple of different creators. So it's sort of that kind of romance book, but it's just about different topics. For example, there's a story in issue number 2, whereas the people involved in the main story, they're not really interested in a sexual relationship side of things. They're just more interested in just the relationship element. There's another one where it's kind of this romance between a woman and her computer, this artificial AI, and this relationship that they're building. So it's what defines a relationship and what defines a partnership. So it's kind of taking that romance comic idea and just twisting it a little bit. And like I said, the whole reason I picked up this 4-issue was for Sarah's artwork, because I'm a big fan of Sarah's, the little bit that I've seen, that I've read of Sarah's stuff. I couldn't tell you right now what the story was about in this one, because the visuals of her ability in visual storytelling, I think, is amazing. And the way that she just draws the pages and the panels and uses kind of different medias. Unfortunately, it's a really, really short one, but I love it. I really love the style. There's something to it that just kind of speaks to me in a different way. It seems like it pulls from an older, you know, maybe 60s, 70s style, and then mixed. Yeah, I mean, I've pretty much shown you the pages now in her story. So that was great. Katie Skelly in this first one. Nothing wrong with Skelly's style. I enjoy it. This one didn't blow me away. It was an interesting sort of a mystery as well too. A woman who has found that her husband is cheating on her, and she goes to hire a private investigator, and then through that we get to know a little bit more about this private investigator's past and what kind of things he was involved with. So it's a fun little series. Issue 2 didn't kind of wow me as much as the first one. So I've kind of slowed down on it. And this creator here, who I'm going to say is, let's have a look here to make sure I get credits right. Alex DeCampi is what I want to say. Very Brandon Graham style. When I actually flipped through the book, I had to double check the credits because I thought even the panels themselves, that roundedness and that coloring and the choice of colors, just screamed out Brandon Graham. And then there was some details that clearly weren't, like his facial features, for example. That's absolutely not a Brandon Graham, but her features really speak to that. And this issue, like I said, it was okay. It didn't blow me away. And then the other side, we have Meredith McLaren and Vita Ayala on this story. And this is the one, the woman having a conversation with basically her computer and artificial intelligence, and kind of finding out their sort of, she's maybe falling in love with that, and vice versa. And what does that mean? And, so that was an interesting little story. Each issue also has a few pages of a prose story, and I haven't dug into those yet. I'm going to kind of give the rest of the issues a read to see if they resonate at all before I jump into 5 pages of pure text. And then one thing we should pause to acknowledge. Here we go. Let's see if I can make this happen. Look who we have in the chat. We have a Mr. Costin Brom Space Star joining us.
The mighty Costin Brom Star.
Amazing. There you go. Welcome. It's nice to see you in avatar and text form.
Scott was a huge reason I started my channel.
Is that true? Yeah, really?
Yeah. He was one of the 3 or 4 people that I discovered on YouTube and said, my God, I've got to do this too.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, Zesty Clam, I feel that as well. There's nothing that, I don't find it offensive necessarily, but Katie's style it doesn't blow my mind. It's not something that I'm really, really drawn to by any stretch. But yeah, so that was a fun little 4-issue miniseries for sure. What do you got else, Rasa? Oh, what did I do? Pushing all sorts of buttons.
You feel very
You're the
important.
big man.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm not.
So I'm not. Maybe Damien can help me with this one. So I finally finished this.
Yes.
So it's funny. So I sent my comic book guy. He's like, like whatever I want to receive for the month, and then he's like, "Don't you want Superman's in Paris legs?" I was like, "Huh?" I completely forgot about this. And it's like, oh shit, yeah. And then he sent me those both. I didn't realize they came out in 1 month. Those 2 issues anyway. So the first issue was great because it's just the developing story. Now we have developed story in the end, but it's lacking. It doesn't have the same pizzazz what it has before in the first issue, and it just felt like, like there's some details which I absolutely loved. What I really liked is the small creatures like this you can see here on the walls, which is like, whoa, who is this? The creature? I kind of like whoa.
The amazing monkey bot is here.
Yeah. So now I don't want to talk about.
We're really getting everybody. Holy smokes, man!
Yeah, that's cool.
Sorry, Rasa. Sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, people stop interrupting me. I'm joking. Anyway, so you have these creatures. You have the Lex of Lex, who he is, and he's like, he comes to join those planets, and then we discover this crystal things of energy, and he's like, oh, I don't want to join it because I'm going to be, like, I'm sorted now. I'm going to be the richest man on the planet. And then, of course, Superman has things up his sleeve. And then it's like, is a Superman really has that much of, up his sleeve stuff, like to know how to deal with the storyline? And it's just like, for me, Superman has always have been a good guy who defeats everybody, but it never felt that he had an extra to him. I don't know how to make it so it doesn't sound like I'm talking about Superman as being stupid. I'm looking for words for that, but anyway, so it was entertaining. And then the end issue number 3, I mean, it was okay, but it just felt like it could have gone in so many ways, especially with that, that extra face we could keep on talking about. We see him in the beautician. And they're putting this thing, and it just seems to be that Alexis somehow feels like very vain, and he wants to be beautiful, and I like this beautiful face to put on every single time. But it feels like there could be another story there behind it. He could have just given it for us, but he didn't, and it just ended up plain, kind of like defeat of. Of course, Lex was defeated by Superman. Superman is the clever point in here, but Lex is genius. Do you know what I mean? So right. I didn't think that Superman can have that kind of up on him. So
Lex didn't seem like much of a genius in this book. Really.
Yeah, it felt like he was like, it just, he was like sorry for himself. He finds this planet. He goes becomes this general of the planet, of the savior of the planet, because he wants to be that kind of person. But then the Superman comes in, of course, interrupts his party in a way. And then suddenly he's like, okay, he defeats them. But it's just like, I wanted, because it's Imperialist Lex, it didn't feel Imperialist in here anymore for me after reading it, 3 of them together.
Yeah.
The first one felt fantastic because that's how your Lex in DC Universe. But it seems to be, after reading all the 3 of them, he just when you're a kid and you have his balloon and it blows you up, and after a while the balloon just goes and deflates itself. That's how it felt like that. I felt like that kid who's reading a storyline and just my balloon is disappearing. Why? I want more of stuff like that, entertainment, but I didn't get it. So that's how I felt after that.
I thought it could have been so much more because it was a Mark Russell comic and it had all the elements at first and it didn't really live up to it. Yeah. I wonder if he was pulling back, trying to be more like a team player in the DC Comics world.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what went wrong there. Yeah. It looked like something where he had all the elements for a crazy Mark Russell story.
But the Pugh's art is fantastic. Everything you have, like whatever the facial expressions, and the best part of Lex was him having lollipop in his mouth. I love that part. That kind of because that's what I felt like Alexis was in this kind of a child who's running away because Superman's always there interrupting my playground. I want to play in my own fucking sandbox. Please go away, and he's keep on coming. No wonder he hates him so much, kind of thing, and that's how I felt about it. So, felt really passionate about it somehow. I kind of, if I have a title saying Imperialist Lex, I want Imperialist Lex. I want that clever part of him, that genius part of him, just a little bit more finesse in his ways. How he can have more up on Superman, not Superman having more up on Lex. It kind of felt like, huh? You changed, what's going on? That Red Sun, which he's clever for Lex being next to Red Sun because Superman cannot be there or doesn't have enough power because of Red Sun's influence. So he only can do something crazy for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, what they say in the book. But still, okay, of course, you have the clever Lois next to him, which is basically the one who's basically saved everybody, with everything else. But still, it just felt like Lexus had to have some something more, and it would be great if it would end up having like, I got you, Superman, you know, like no matter what, you're gonna come in my playground, I'm gonna beat you somehow in some way. So so that's how I feel like it.
A lot of times we get all excited, we have expectations, and then they kind of fizzle.
And that's why I guess I'm not reading DC's books anymore. I keep on coming in, try, dabble because of a creative team. And the Flintstones is probably the best of DC's recent things what I've read because of the creative team as well. It's just felt like something completely different, but really entertaining and funny. Because I guess I really like Flintstones. You know, I grew up with those everywhere, you know, but still.
Right. DC has this huge editorial meltdown, and that might be affecting the writers and who knows what. But I've been thinking lately about how, like, some people used to hear a lot on YouTube, this writer could never do any wrong. I'll read anything he writes. And I just think that's not true. Any writer can do wrong. Any writer can have duds. And so you just can't assume that everything, because I was getting that way with Mark Russell. It's like everything he does I'm going to like. But it's not, you know, it's worth looking at, but it may or may not be that way.
Is Russell has been dabbling in other companies to write?
He did a Red Sonja series.
Okay.
Which I read part of, and the art was so horrible that I eventually put it aside. And maybe I'll read it, cheaply for free sometime. But that was from Dynamite, and they really cheaped out on the art, I think. Well, and he also did a Lone Ranger series for Dynamite, which I haven't read.
Oh, is he?
I'm trying to. There was something. Oh, and then he did 2 books for Ahoy. The one about Jesus and Superman, and Billionaire Island. Both of those were pretty good, but nothing lives quite up to the Flintstones.
Yeah. I think the Pews really helps Mark Russell. I think he really gets him. And I think it really makes it very fluid to what you read. It's the storyline, it's okay, but I mean the art is fantastic, to be honest, to what you get for the story. And the Pew is the star in this comic book, not Mark Russell. Mark Russell just makes the story, as I say, really good first story, gets you really interested, but then deflates it at the end, which is disappointing. But that's part of the reading comic books, and not always you're gonna get gold. But then Scott Connor says that he yet to see Darwin Cook do wrong. Yeah, that it seems to be that man was knowing when to do what to do, where to put his hands into it before he done something. So, and that's rare because a lot of people who is doing in probably industry just wants to get paycheck and do their job and then blah blah blah, and you don't have that much experiences. Like Darwin Cook had animation background so much, so he's been in that sense, and he had the name for it. So, but a lot of things.
Again, also one of the guys like we were talking about before who dabbled in many different areas, right? Like had a little more of a wider berth of things that he was into, like doing the crime noir stuff, doing the superhero stuff, like it felt like he kind of dabbled in a bunch of different areas, or maybe not a bunch of different areas, but a couple of different areas anyway, which sometimes is more than enough, right? Instead of just staying in one kind of lane, you know what I mean? So he's seen more of a creative type, not the people like you were talking about that are just going to collect a paycheck and doing the job, So yeah.
I mean, as I say, it's the comic books you're always gonna get, or not always you're gonna find something, whatever it attracts in your brain, it's whatever how you perceive in your whatever you read in lines. That's what's gonna make it exciting for you. What doesn't, not all of us we're gonna like the same thing. We're right, but just I kind of because I do enjoy DC's universe. I always keep on trying to get in there, see whatever's there. That's why. For me, and because I haven't read the comic books for that long, I always can dabble in the past, and which usually has really entertained me when it comes to DC comic books. So, but I'm still trying to I would be like to having something in the pull list maybe, but it just never. It's for me never has reached anymore. And since that change of the people who owns DC, maybe that's another thing, like Marvel has been taken over by Disney, and that's just been rolling. That's another machine which I don't go and dabble in there. I don't have to, more enough for me watching TV. But the DC, I was like always like, oh, I'd like to, like it seems to be DC never, like there's two of them. So
but I think the biggest thing, though, is recognizing when it's just not for you anymore. Like Zesty Clam is, I'm not agreeing with things like Zesty Clam is saying. I find it comical. Zesty Clam definitely has a bee in their bonnet. But there's just going to be some things that it just comes down to, like some of the art that he's talking about. It just comes down to what's going to resonate, what your taste is, right? I'm always very conscious of like, of course, I think I what the best art is, and I'm gonna tell you in a heartbeat what sucks and what. But I mean, there's like 50 other people who say the stuff that I think sucks is the fucking best art in the world. It's and I think recognizing when like this, especially the big two, just recognizing what's like, what, they're not doing much for me anymore. They're just so I'm gonna go and explore other things. But I hear you though about every once in a while wanting to dip your toes back in and kind of recapture that joy from Marvel and DC, but just doesn't happen. Well, at least it doesn't happen for me as much anymore. It still happens, thankfully, but not as much as it used to.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing, because like I used to have quite a bit of things on the pull list and new stuff, but it's luckily enough that there's so much things in the comic books that you can go into and start to explore. Like like just an example of having that Hawkman series I'm talking about. Something I wouldn't have gone into, because throughout the time of listening to YouTube, watching YouTube people talking about the stuff, and somehow it clicked in my head, and there you go. I'm going to go and have a look for myself and see how entertaining it is. And it is thoroughly entertaining to me now. Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Damien, did you want me to share the screen here again? Oh, sorry, Damien.
No, not yet. Another thing I read a lot of this week was The Goon from the Dark Horse Run. I read issue 5, issue 6, issue 28, and issue 29. And I'm just approaching The Goon kind of at random. But, I read that most recent issue of The Goon from Albatross, and it was my very first Goon. And I thought it was like one of the most brilliant comics ever. And I'm going to love every Goon comic ever. And these were good, but they didn't hit me like a giant revelation the way that one issue did. So, there's lots of fun stuff in all of them, but it doesn't seem like God's gift to me in comic books the way it did with that one issue. Like in this one, The Goon, there's a giant monster. I forget how it occurs. And then the Goon kind of becomes a giant monster too, and fights it. It was okay, and it had it felt like a homage to old monster comics and monster movies. And then let's see what happened. This one, number 5, I thought was particularly good, where they go and rescue this corpse-like person from being a prisoner. That's a person who's still alive there, believe it or not. I liked this one quite a bit, number 5. And they go rescue him from this person who's raising an army of zombies, I guess. I forgot what he was called. And they get all their allies to come together. Like this werewolf comes and helps them. And there's some cool werewolf versus zombie scenes. It is all great pulp. I love those images with the hordes of zombies surrounding the poor werewolf, and then the giant robot run by this mad scientist comes and helps them too, and that helps save the day.
Pretty great.
So, and I guess a lot of these people are characters, and there's some sort of ongoing plot. Doesn't seem too important. And then when I jumped to issue 28. Suddenly it's on very different slick paper, and it's now colored by Dave Stewart, and it does have a bit of a different look. And it just, I don't know, it's fun. It just didn't stand out to me as much. Lots of cool, it's almost like you just start taking it for granted. There's going to be these cool monster images. and it seemed like I don't know. In a way, Dave Stewart made the coloring too serious looking. Maybe, I don't know. There's a picture I wanted to find of him punching a horse. There we go.
Oh no!
I mean, so these goon issues are always worth it. I had that overly high expectation.
The goon is all about
Mule Love 75% off. I forgot that. Are they pimping the mule? There's a cruel sense of humor here too, because in issue 29, I forgot how it happens. There's this kind of dog boy, and they just take him to the orphanage, and the kids at the orphanage treat him like a dog. And then eventually he let's see, I'm skipping over the actual plot stuff. And sort of like, blah, 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 they fight another big monster and defeat it. But then where's the dog boy? I'm trying to find the dog boy. I can't find him. Maybe it was in the next issue. The dog boy starts looking more human, but they keep treating him like a dog. Yeah, there's the dog boy now. But they're still treating him like a dog. And I think the dog boy is in the next issue too. So I'm not quite sure what I think about the Goon. I'm still happily reading random back issues of it. And I tried to get my comic book shop to put it on the pull list, and my shop owner thought the Goon was canceled. I think he's wrong, but I don't know for sure. So, and it is promising that Goon issue that I fell so in love with was his most recent one. So he may have, refined his whole shtick and technique and characters to such a high level that the later Goon is actually better than the earlier. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, maybe just rejuvenated. Yeah.
But it's kind of, if you think that there's hundreds of issues like this, or I don't know how many, 100, it's kind of obsessive. I've got this world. It's basically one street and this bar, and then somewhere there's a castle with a mad scientist and a castle with a zombie scientist. And that maybe is the whole world. And I'm just maybe it's a bit like Crazy Cat or something, where you just play new variations on the same shtick.
What I read about the Goon is that friend of his who is always like a sidekick, like he's Batman. Yeah, it's Batman and Robin. Yes, Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin. Okay. Yeah, kind of, in a way. It's what I felt about them when after reading that one of the library editions, which I have, like those 5 collected library editions, is that it's an ongoing storyline there, and you have those little snippets of them coming back to that conversation, what they had at the beginning. So when you do, of course, you can read the stories probably just with a story, whatever it is, because he tends to write quite a short stories from issue to issue, but there's ongoing gag going on between that whole, and there's some of them really kind of interesting storylines as far as I know, but I haven't read all of it, so I can't tell you.
You've read quite a bit of it. So if you invest in it chronologically, maybe you get a little more out of it, even though from the outside it seems like they just keep doing the same thing.
The beauty of the library editions, of course, you do start from the beginning, and sometimes we do saying, you don't usually have to start from the beginning. But when I start reading it from the beginning, I start to understand that those two together, they kind of work. Like they do take care of each other in a way. What ongoing things happens with the Goon being that brawny guy, and he's this tiny little thing. But you start to kind of like they need to be together. They becomes like not only the Goon is, of course, it says the Goon, but for me, his friend is actually more entertaining than the Goon himself, because you have those sidekicks which is necessary for storytelling, and seems to be he is necessary for I read what was entertaining for me. Right. But I think it's continuously going. I think he just discovers what he can do, what he's known for. And then there's later issues, like when we were reading about the guy with the axe. I forgot the name now, of course. One of the stories, he just randomly came up with single issues. That was really good. That looked at he already has an understanding of what he wants to do and stuff like that. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely going to read some more Goon. I guess I had thought I could get away with just picking up whichever issues were cheapest in the bins and reading them in that order. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, Frankie. That's the friend of
Frankie,
that's
okay.
yeah. How Lemon says the Goon 3 says how they came up like that. That's how they met. And the issues. It's entertaining.
The earliest issue I have is the Goon 5.
Yeah.
But I'll keep looking for. I'm enjoying finding them at comic book stores. So even though I saw all the volumes on the shelf at the comic book store, I keep looking for individual issues. I also want to get Hellbilly because I hear that's really good.
Oh, that's the one I'm talking about. That the guy with the axe is really entertaining.
Okay.
He's blind. He has this giant axe, and he goes killing witches and stuff. Like there's folklore, so he has very similarly like to Magnolia. I kind of had that feeling to it. So it felt for me like that because there's folklore storylines. He goes in and he has this giant axe, and he's blind from the. Yeah, so it's really entertaining story. It's definitely one of the really good. Just like not investing overly too much in his work. You can just read that storyline and you have a feel of the creator. And I think getting sometimes listening to interviews what he says, because there's lots of things he talks about the Goon and what he wanted from them. And sometimes people like they get into the stuff they don't understand. But I think he really tells you what he wanted to do with that comic books from the beginning. So
one thing I want to read this in the beginning of issue 5, just under the credits, it says, nothing was harmed in the making of this 32-page comic except for my holiday vacation, you ungrateful pukes. I want my Goon comics. I want my Goon comics. My children have forgotten my name. They call me the guy who draws and screams at the wall in the spare room. And it's all for you. You think about that, mister. You just think about that for a while. It's like a comic book artist really expressing how he feels.
Yeah.
The tragedy. But I think last time we talked about the Goon in the comments, Scott Connor, or maybe it was someone else, but I think it was Scott, recommended a trade that he did that's about the Goon that's very sad, he said. Makes you cry, I think. And I ordered that. I can't remember what it's called now, but I ordered that trade from In Stock Trade, so I should be getting it in a while. So that might be interesting.
Cool.
Okay, sorry for taking up so much time. On to
totally fine.
The Noble Crack.
Are you still reading this one, Damien? Are you still caught with Crimson Flower?
Yeah, that looks like a different cover, but yes, I'm caught up with Crimson.
Yeah, they just didn't have the irregular cover.
Okay.
Sorry,
I think there's been 3 issues.
Yeah, I bought. So I picked up 2 and 3 because I was behind. I only had issue 1, but I was behind on the other 2. So when I finally had a chance to pick up some new books, so what are you thinking about it still? As I kind of show a bit of the art, what are your thoughts about it? I don't remember if you covered it in one of your videos or not.
I did, and I'm sort of feeling. I still love the art and the color. And I'm feeling a little let down by the story. It's only a 4 issue thing, so I think I won't have any regrets having gotten it. But I just kind of noticed, well, this is not Matt Kint's most spectacular work. It's pretty basic. Yeah. It seems more like a serial killer story now than a conspiracy theory story. I'm sure there's still going to be a little conspiracy theory in there, but because issues 2 and 3 both were mostly fighting.
Yes,
there was some wild stuff there where I don't know if it was in her head, where she kind of transformed things into Russian folktales as she was fighting them.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and visualized them as werewolves at one point. I think it might have been in issue number 2, actually, because it's when she first meets that kind of group. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. That's kind of how I felt reading these last 2 issues. Like the first issue really seemed to set up this whole conspiracy thing, and they touch on it a little bit, but it maybe it's more so her psychosis induced. But they don't seem to explore, because I agree with you. That's exactly what I got after the issue. It's like, okay, so now this is just a serial killer, some guy who's just going around and just hasn't been caught forever. And it was a little, but again, I'm with you that art continues to impress me. And he's one of those guys. I had a look at Liznicki's kind of links on his Twitter just to see where it led. I thought maybe it was his own personal site, but I see that he sells I see that he's done commissions in the past and things. He's one of those artists that I would absolutely save up to get a commission done by him, because his art just is phenomenal. And even things like this panel here, you know, the way he's doing that sound effect coming through as she comes bursting through the window. There's all these nice little touches in his style. And I love, you know, me and Snow. I love all the way different artists portray like snow in their art. And this one is really good. You get some panels too where the snowflakes or the snowballs, here we go, they're just enormous on the page and really just affect the overall feel. Beautiful looking stuff. But yeah, the story is it's losing me a little bit, you know, and like you said, I'm glad that it's a 4-issue thing, because by the time that's done, it won't be a regret at all. Yeah, and I think that's what you were talking about there. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, they seem to, after she kills them, they seem to be humans again.
Yeah.
As Scott says, it's almost a cross between Corbin and Jeff Darrow. It's really hard to describe Lazinski's style.
It really is. Well, especially in like an interview that I heard with him where he talks about his experience with comics, and he didn't really have, from what I remember, if this is correct, that he didn't really have it's not like he was immersed in comics growing up. It's not like he's coming from that, oh God, I really idolized such and such an artist and I really love this series and I was picking up this. And he just kind of came to it sort of as just a guy who was drawing and just came into doing art and having his very unique sensibility, right? So
yeah. I mean, he definitely likes comics. I mean, I've talked to him in person at a con once, and
thanks.
But he is not as immersed as your average comic book artist, perhaps. He's more there for the art came first and the comics came second, perhaps.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? But he's written a lot of his own comics. And in a way, I mean, he's still developing as a writer, I guess. But in a way, those are more interesting than this. And he has a graphic novel coming out, I think, next month. So that'll be interesting.
Oh, okay.
A short graphic novel that he wrote himself.
The first series he did was The Freak, right? Is that what it was called?
That was the first that was not self-published.
Oh, okay.
So the way I met him is he wrote me, and you guys probably get this occasionally, people wanting you to promote their work on your channel. You know, I'll send you a PDF. But he just wrote and said, I'm a fan of your channel and you might want to look at my comic. You can read it for free on this website. And I clicked through, and for the only time I've ever had that happen to me, thought, wow, this is really good. And then I ordered physical copies of the comics.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then I met him at a convention and we chatted, and we've chatted occasionally, you know, through Twitter or the like.
Yeah.
And he did a commission for me way back then. His style was different than now, but it was definitely cool.
What was
I probably got him when he was cheaper than he is now.
Yeah. What was the commission he did for you?
Well, I said, do me a space barbarian with a monster. I think it's in another room, unfortunately, but I've shown it before, but I'll get it out sometime. And I put it in a frame. I used to have it hanging up somewhere, but now, you know how chaos happens. But and his idea of a space barbarian with a monster was completely different than anything I had imagined. At first, I said, well, like in a Frazetta painting of John Carpenter of Mars or something, but he didn't even know what I was talking about.
Yeah. That's kind of awesome, though, you know, because then he's going to bring something completely unique.
Yeah.
That's
it's a really cool picture, and really, as you'd expect from him, really weird.
Yeah. Rasa, what else do you got?
Oh no, I just I wanted to show. I mean, honestly, I don't know how you guys was reading the story, because I still haven't really read it. I'm just immerse myself into the art. It's like I can't stop looking, and I really enjoy it. It's just she looks very dreamy. The panels are really good. Everything is just stunning. But it's funny. I was looking through it, and this is really cool. This kind of panel could be in Swamp Thing, to be honest. So I really liked it, and I honestly haven't finished reading it because I just tend to, because I was so busy organizing these comic books. I was just like, I had it on my table, and I was like, every single time I wanted to take a break, I just looked at a couple of panels just to see, because thank you for Damien for sending this to me, and I was like, I remember I was looking at it to get it myself, but I never did. But then you guys keep on talking about it, and then honestly seeing it in the page rather than on screen, it does really stand out for me, and I'm getting more appreciation. And in this story here at the back of Alex Nino is actually, I mean, it was as good for art-wise as well, but I was actually finished reading that because it's kind of like, you don't have to invest much time in it. It's just that it wasn't a finished story, but just the beginning of a story, and this creature came in and these aliens, and maybe, I don't know. It felt really cool to read, and it was very entertaining. So I'm glad to see that the Nerima 2 is going to be continuous. I don't know how long the story at the back is going as well for, but yeah, I'm gonna for sure take my time and read this as well, because it looks like something I want to read. But I can't stop looking at it now. Even now, I can't even say anything much about it. It's just like I want to look. I just want to stare and see it. I just don't know. I honestly surprised not knowing the artist before, because it usually is my cup of tea to read, like to have this kind of in the book and art in my collection. But I guess you always miss out on something. But thank you guys for keep on giving this
Scott
voice.
And Tim are jumping up and down in excitement over Rima, so they know good stuff too.
Yeah.
And I might have first heard about it from Solid ST Bend, Shannon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but maybe from Tim or Scott years ago.
And the coloring, honestly, maybe it's like, I don't know, is it faded or is it like it used to be like this? Because it's sometimes some panels feels like it might be faded or on purpose, but honestly, I just like that subtleness of the color in here. Maybe it's just the mood of the comic book itself. Maybe it's just the animals, because some, like when they concentrate on a character, you kind of see it very clearly. But then they like on the conversation to them, you're like, it's quite muted for me. But I love looking at it. Look, it's so dreamy. It's like a good dream, to be honest.
It really is.
And it is kind of like the guy is like, he goes some in a space, and he just like, he sees this face and he goes completely like berserk because he saw this, like, and couldn't believe what he saw, and he's been in search for her since, and he sees it in trees, like that like story of like of guy somehow like, oh, this like a muse, like he finds a muse and he just needs to look for it until he's gonna find it. He can't resolve his issues, kind of thing, in a way. But definitely fantastic. Honestly, it's a treat to have it and keep on looking at it, as I say. And Joe Kubert on the covers, not often you can get Joe Kubert comic books. Like, I mean, he done so many things, but for me, it's probably not many I have for all of his covers. But this is really good, and it's actually, honestly, kind of looks similar, to be honest, to the guy inside, so you would think, but no. But yeah, definitely a fantastic guy to look at, and thank you guys for this.
Well, I mean, it's all Damien to thank for sure. I mean, Damien's the one that turned this on. Like, and it's
Damien.
The coloring is really, really nice, and even so much so on the cover. Like, I finished the first 4 issues, and I love the first 4 issues. I haven't dipped into the next yet, but the back of that wooden stake and that coloring there, it's not often you see that kind of browny orange, or at least it doesn't look, like a familiar, common used comic color to my eyes anyway. And you're 100% right. Like, the interiors, that kind of fitted quality, it gives it this really nice, just feel throughout, where it has that more, realistic kind of element, right? And I absolutely love the page 2, the page 2 bottom half kind of spread the two panels there. Every single issue, it's phenomenal. I think it's really nice use of a page. Gives you that little taste of what you're up for this issue.
That's kind of a signature Joe Kubert thing, and he was the editor of this comic. And
I see.
I think there's some suspicion that he may have done the layouts or some of the layouts.
Is it? Wow.
So even though he doesn't get credit for it, it might be that Joe Kubert is a co-artist on this in a sense.
Okay.
But it's
what?
Maybe.
Hallermel says Rima made it onto Super Friends?
Super Friends, yeah.
I was just thinking maybe with Rima they were trying to do comics for adults here, but
yeah.
It's the company at large who didn't notice that it was a nice adult comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
it reminds me of magical realism. Magical realist Latin American fiction in a way.
Yeah, no, those first 4 issues just really, again, had me, and it's I tried myself a little bit for sure, but it was just a really engaging story, and just his, like you were saying, his fixation on his muse, right? Like, I've now seen her, and now I have to do everything I can to go to her and be one with her and rescue her and et cetera, and
but
and all the images of her are just so striking.
Yeah, but look at the way he's treating her. It's so gentle and so she's a fragile little being, but you can actually feel that in the comic books. It's portraying the emotions, it's just simplicity of simplicity of that, but it takes skill, time to do this, all this, look, the man searching, and it doesn't look like he's some comic books, some things, but it's just ability of the artist is great. But if you say that Joe Kubert had hand in it, it would be a shame, to be honest, because honestly, this artist who is doing, I forgot his name now. Oh my God, what?
Nestor Redondo.
There you go, Nestor Redondo. Yeah. It's just really good. That's the thing. That's really good. Anyway.
Yeah.
An eye candy. If you want an eye candy, go get it. Yeah. Go get that muse of yours. But don't do what Constant Brother says. Don't get that kind of muse. That's not funny.
Yeah. Again, it's one
of those. It may be hard to buy if you live in Portland, as I keep buying up copies.
Yeah. If you don't have a good marriage between the artist and the writer, those moments, they're going to just completely pass, right? So, yeah, absolutely the artist, 100%. But, I mean, if you don't have that story where you had that kind of, introduction to who they are and the world and everything, those moments end up falling flat, So it's really just one of those kind of quality where everybody seemed to be working in unison. And like you said, and like I was talking about last week, that backup story I think is great as well too. It's a nice touch to have something kind
completely different,
but still incredible in its own way, right? So yeah.
Oosh, beautiful. Honestly, really, such a eye candy. It's now I'm talking to you guys and I'm flipping through pages. It's more important now. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you can just run away from it.
Yeah,
really cool.
I was just typing an answer to Zesty, but I think the 70s are where you get people who loved comics coming into the comics industry. Joe Kubert was there from the beginning, but he was an unusual one who loved comics even starting from the 40s. So I think that's one reason why the 70s has so many interesting things going on.
And there was just no boundaries, because even with film and things, the 70s films and stuff too, there's just a certain kind of unhinged quality to them where is that kind of bordering on dangerous. And that's within the art, these kind of art forms we're talking about specifically, where there's a little more to that's happening, where it's this kind of love and excitement and let's just try a bunch of shit, but by people who have really thought about it. They're not necessarily always just trying it just to kind of throw shit at the wall and see what it's trying stuff with purpose as well. There's a mix of all of that,
How many issues does Rima have?
7, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7, I think. So basically there's those 4 issues, and then I think there's just 3 kind of standalone issues that are a little less magical. But still have the beautiful art.
Yeah.
Cool.
I haven't found number 7 yet. I have 5 and 6, but no 7 yet.
definitely looking for it already. You know, the rest of it, because I want. Ooh, I think I found it. Clickety click. Click. Ooh, and the price is good.
Later.
Yes.
Good night, Adam.
Okay. Bye. Yeah.
Damien, what do you? Oh, sorry, Russ. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead, Rasa.
No. I'm just saying. I think I'm gonna attempt my luck and get it online. Fingers crossed.
Go for it.
I think I'll just mention some quickies because I always talk about Alex Zurrett from Space Riders. So I just want to point out that number 3 of Space Riders, the what's it called, the Vortex of Darkness, in this unreadable metal font, but definitely comes out of some imaginary 70s black light poster where everyone's smoking pot and probably dreaming about customizing their motorcycle. But so it's just more of the same fantastic art and not much of a story. So I had a great time just looking through it.
Great.
Just keep showing you art. That's
beautiful, man.
I really, my main thing is I just hope they put this out in some oversized hardback someday. There is a hardback, I think, but it's not oversized.
Is it still Black Mask?
It's still Black Mask, and it seems to be, months and months between issues. He does his own coloring, and I just love the way he uses color. It's very simple, but it's very, very effective.
And not only that, it feels like his coloring choices are changing. Like there's some, there's always exceptional pages, but a couple that you've shown are even more exceptional than they are in the past. Like with the limited, it feels like there's some different choices happening. Yeah, that page there that you just flipped by, but it's gorgeous, man. It seems like it's just getting better. Yeah, that one there with the yellows and blues and just that red background. It's just
it's like he picks just the right simple color scheme for any page or double page spread, really.
So good.
I love that picture too there. I mean, you can tell he can draw really well, but he's happy to just do something that, looks like some crazed kid's doodle on his high school notebook or something.
So great.
Yeah. And of course the flying skull spaceship that we always have to have.
Right.
So just want people to be alert to that. And let's see what else. Engine Ward continues to be a very good kind of sci-fi comic. I don't have a lot to say about it right now. Hulk continues to be good. Ink Blot is kind of you can't put your finger on quite what they're doing. It seems interesting, and you're aware, or I'm aware, that this is kind of the first comic these two people have done, and they're co-writing it and co-drawing it. One is the granddaughter of Joe Kubert. So if you're willing to put up with kind of some flaws in the plot, but you do like kind of a fantasy novel kind of feel, or more like a linked fantasy short stories, it's a pretty effective comic, but there's something a little missing from it.
Yeah.
And then could you do my screen share now?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 sec here.
So they have started translating Asterix into American English, supposedly. And they're releasing it in these omnibuses of three at a time, and they just released the latest one. And I'm clicking on the wrong place. I have to click over here to make it move there. I'm enjoying reading these because they've come out digitally, and you weren't able to get Asterix digitally before, but it's great to read it panel by panel with my daughter. So I think if you have kids and you want to read Asterix with them, this is a great way to do it. It's funny going from every page of Asterix kind of looks the same color scheme wise. It's funny going from the modern comics to this. But it's a lot of fun. So I just wanted to mention that. And I really enjoy the Asterix art style and everything. There's just something perfect for what it is.
Yeah. I love the way Alex walks. Like it's really nice with his kind of that off kilter. It's so
Right.
exactly that character. It's really great.
Yeah, a lot of the characterization is in the art.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched cartoons of the Asterix and Obelix?
Yeah, we've watched all the movies of Asterix that we could find in English. I think there were maybe 3, maybe 4. But it's really fun to read this together on my iPad. And it gives me a chance to. I don't know if I read all the Asterix in the past in the British versions, which I think are actually better. But it's really fun to just read it again with my daughter. And even though she's 12, she still likes me reading to her. I don't know how much longer that'll last.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it's the comfort levels for the kids. I think if you continue like it's the habit, it becomes the comfort levels, which is
right.
You should take it for whatever it is. Like I'm keep on doing to my son. So hopefully you realize why I'm doing this to him, because actually I'm selfish. I want to have time with him, while he's gonna give me some.
Right.
But with the books. But when I was growing up in Lithuania, I remember now because we got translations. On television. We used to have the cartoons, and there's a lot of it I grew up with. Actually, now you're showing all those panels, and it's like, I can't stop smiling because I remember that time I was doing that. There's lots of movies I watched, of course, as well. But when living here in UK, I don't think that many. I mean, you can get them in album format in English as well, but it's kind of like, like acquired taste apparently in here as well. But it's just me, just the way I felt about it. Coast and Brown Star, okay, that's a good thought.
Maybe there is Asterix porn out there.
I wouldn't be to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised.
Sure there is. Yeah.
I kind of wondered how Obelix could actually have sex, but there's probably some way.
He's like a weeble wobble, so he doesn't fall down. So that natural motion. He just goes with that.
Oh my God.
Sort of keeping on the art train. I managed to find a issue 2, not issue number 1, because apparently that's not a thing that can exist in issue number 1. And then for DaCosta, I think it was DaCosta that said that he found an issue number 1, but he couldn't find a number 2. So we'll get together and we'll have the first 2 issues.
You've got the 2 copies that exist in Canada, probably.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And they're Canadian English, so there's U's all over the place in this one. This is really great too. And again, it's more about the art for me. The story was the story. It moved through well, but I mean the art is just exceptional. So that was a fun read. The other one that was a super fun read, and I'm really actually sorry to see it go. Excuse me. I believe this is the final issue of the Marvel book that I was loving. Issue number 6. So there's a look at the back, but man, oh man, was this one great. The art in here, I just ate it up. So this is Greg Smallwood on a Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. story. And again, for me personally with these books, this story is just there. I'm sure that there's stuff in there that if you're a hardcore fan of the series, maybe there's stuff that's extra enjoyable, but the art in this issue, I loved this. It took me forever to read this issue just because I was just going over every single panel. And that's, look at this stuff. That's just great, man. Really, really cool. And
Smallwood seems to be an under-recognized artist.
Oh yeah, what else has he done? What can you point me
He did some really
towards?
cool Moon Knight issues that I saw.
That's I was about to mention that. I was like thinking, surely not, but yeah, he did. It's actually quite a good story as well. Isn't it Garth Ennis wrote, or who is?
Was it with Garth Ennis or?
I think it was.
What's his name? I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah, it was with a well-known writer. And Smallwood did really.
Yeah, now it's gonna bother me. But you know what reminds me of?
Look for it.
It doesn't it reminds me of Steranko, but polished Steranko, because that panels everywhere. If you have the original series of Steranko with Nick Fury, it actually reminds me of that, especially the space, the planets, and everything, and the way he looks as well. The trippiness, the skull scheme as well. I mean, I need to show you. Give me Jeff Lemire. There you go. Thank you, Architectural Foam Panels. That's the guy who wrote the Greg Smallwood Moonlight as well.
I'll have to check that out for sure then, because I love this art. I think is just gorgeous. And then we get a real transition to a black and white and Silver Surfer, which again is beautiful art, no doubt about it. We get a Galactus story, of course, and coming back to a ravaged Earth, where the Human Torch is the last hero remaining, and he's going to fight to the end to save the planet from Galactus. Some really nice reflections there and nice page layouts. And then the kind of the story that bookended the whole thing is Nightmare taking Doctor Strange prisoner and kind of dipping into his memories to creating all these kind of supposedly sort of creating the rest of the stories that we're now seeing in this whole series. And there's been a pretty particular art style throughout that. They only do a one-page kind of intro, but that's kind of a look at what we've been a part of for the previous 5 issues. And then in this final issue, when we get to the final kind of the big battle, we get a very specific change in tone there, and it up to the 2-page spread that just completely had me make noises out loud. It's so gorgeous. That style, that everything. It's like this is the stuff I come to for Marvel. They're really adventurous, I feel, with some of their titles when it comes to what kind of artists they'll have on stuff. Like, look at these pages, man. Like, it just is mind melting to me that I can't get another mini series with this style of art, because I would be all over it. So this was a really fun one. The only issue I don't have is issue number 1. So I'm gonna make it my mission this next week or to try to hunt down a copy of that. But like
are
any
these
of
higher
that,
price?
This is a $4.99. Yeah, so $4.99 books. That's kind of average.
An extra $1.
Is it an extra $1? Okay, yeah. But I mean, you get the really nice thick covers. And every single one has just been a blast. You know, it's been an absolute blast. There's been some that don't hit home as much as others. But there's the list of creators again. So it's Alex Ross basically kind of curating this whole thing from what I understand. Yeah, so like I said, issue 6, final one. I'm sure you can still find them out there, and maybe if you wait a little longer, you can find them in the cheap bins. But a really, really fun series. An absolute enjoyment from every single issue. There's always at least one standout. This one happens to have pretty much an entire issue that just completely stands out for me. So sorry to see that one go. One less comic on the pull list, I guess.
By the Silver Surfer was done by Lee Bermejo.
Let's double check the name again.
Yeah, it looked like Lee Bermejo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll show you something
correct.
from the.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because that had the same style. Because didn't he do that famous Batman Black Mask story? Isn't it Lee Bermejo? Or am I mistaking something? Anyway, I wanted to show to you that Steranko, Nick Fury.
Okay, yeah. Give me 1 sec.
No.
Oh yeah, look at you.
Yeah, see, and then
yes.
But the panels inside, like you can see the chase. That's really Steranko at his.
Yeah, he was homaging Steranko, wasn't he?
Yeah. Look.
Yeah.
How beautiful, and that him sitting there in the different color schemes, really awesome things to. One of the best Steranko stuff, honestly, to have. And it's so beautiful to look at. And
it's on my list. Just whenever I see it, it's just so expensive. And I always end up buying other things at like a mini con or something. But that's something. And then Damien was the one that also had the omnibus edition that you got, right? Isn't that right? Some time ago.
Yeah.
I I got an omnibus. No, I got one of those giant size ones that's even bigger than an artist edition that has all of the Steranko work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really enjoy this just to look at it, like.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's Marvel as well, is in that time as well, it's really cool.
Yeah.
This issue is very expensive. I bought in that time when, I caught it on time basically, but afterwards it's just everybody's like every single time, especially this one, because of the cover and stuff. And mine, the cover is not really white, unfortunately, because of the age and stuff. But yeah, if it's would be very white, it would be.
So to answer my comics, Fury is kind of off-white in this particular run.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's very beautiful to look at anyway. So
yeah, they're high on my list for sure. High on my list to pick up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely something to have in the collection.
So I threw in the link of someone who was in the comments who's new to us, named where did he go? Henry Chamberlain, and because I looked at his homepage and it's got interviews with Garth Ennis and Peter Bagg.
Oh,
and
yes.
Other cool looking people. So anyway, it was, I don't know if other people all knew about this channel, but it looks like something to check in.
That's why the name, because I watched the Peter Bagg one, I remember. Yes. So that's good. Thank you, Damien. Good one.
Oh, it looks like they have a video about Floating World Comics. So anyway, yeah. That's cool. I'm glad he came along so I can learn about his channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have anything else there, Damien?
Do I? Not really. I don't think so. I think I've covered everything. I put up a video this morning where Eric from Longbox Review, talk about this miniseries for about an hour and 20 minutes before we start talking about other things. So for people who want a really long conversation about a comic book that very few people have ever heard of.
Yeah.
Isn't he famously came from the Machine Man series first appearances?
No. He first came from a White Tiger story, which was a backup in a Kung Fu black and white magazine.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
I don't know why. Because in this one, he seems more like a Superman Krypton kind of character.
Okay.
And that series, I started watching that video this morning, actually, Damien, famous for not only one, but two Winnipeggers. The Color as well is a Winnipegger and is a member of our film technicians union. He's a member of our union. He does storyboards in the industry here. So
right.
So I've got to get it now. I've got to find the 4-issue mini.
I'm a huge fan of the artist George Foreman, who comes from Winnipeg, and for quite a while was associated with Captain Canuck.
Right.
And so there's almost no comics drawn by him other than Captain Canuck in this one. But anytime I find some George Freeman, I definitely pick it up.
Cool.
But anyway, yeah. I assume he's still alive. Maybe you'll run into him on the street someday.
He's still around. He does some, because Nick works and does storyboarding when we were really busy. There was other storyboard artists needed, and he brought in Freeman to do some storyboarding for a couple of them, just to kind of help with the work. Yeah,
that must have been a nice payday for a comic book artist to get the storyboarding payment.
Plus you can whip it off, right? So like you don't have to go into any detail. You're just doing camera movements and you're just doing basic blocking, right? So it's a different kind of a different kind of pace that you're able to keep up and get paid substantially, you know what I mean? So I think it pays off nicely for them.
Do storyboard artists join your union, or is that a separate?
Sorry, say that again, Dean.
I was just curious if storyboard artists get to join your union, or if that's a separate kind of skill.
Yeah, no, they're part of our of IATSE. Yeah, in our local, we have storyboard artists. Yeah, we cover them basically. So, yeah. Sorry, Russ, I skipped over you. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about that you wanted to?
No, that was the Reborn was the last one. As I said to you, I mean I read quite a few things now. Talking about we talk more than 2 hours, so I guess I am keeping up with you guys. But I guess you have a stack and a half still left, isn't it? You haven't.
I do. Yeah, I'm not gonna cover it all. I just wanted to talk about just one more. This Cruel Summer from Brubaker and Phillips, which I personally loved. I thought it was really, really great because it really felt like this was these guys right in their zone. It reminded me why I loved the series Criminal so much, and I do see that the Criminal 3 hardcover has come out, and I think that, or come out a while ago. I'm gonna need to pick it up, even though I have the single issues and stuff, just to finish those. But I really, really enjoyed the story. I loved the way it was laid out. Every single sort of chapter or issue focused on someone different. My favorite chapter, I think, was chapter 2, this Night of the Hunter, where it's focused on this private detective who's been hired, to find this woman, and she almost has kind of a fatale. Sorry, not a fatale. No, fatale. That's right. She has kind of that fatale influence on the men in her life to some degree. It's not necessarily that that it doesn't enter those territories, but she has that sort of men meet her and kind of fall in love with her, and she's a criminal in this world of criminals. It focuses on just this family, the family lawless. So the father and the son and their relationship, and the son's kind of dipping into more, not even dipping into, he's full on getting the crime world and stuff. So many white borders is true. You're right about that, man, the comics. I'm not sure why they didn't format it a little better. You didn't have all that, but the story
they left it at comic book size in an oversized book. I noticed that because I read them as comics, but I looked at the book somewhere.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it hit the mark for me. He wasn't necessarily doing things outside of the scope of what he normally does. But like I said, it really just felt like he found this is their niche, and this is what they excel at. And he kind of just went for it with this story. And again, it feels, from what he says in the back, it is one of the other stories that he'd been thinking about since he first started the Criminal series. It just took time for it to germinate and see how he was going to present it, but loved it. This is kind of, out of hardcover stuff that they've been doing lately and releasing. Pulp, I think, is still the favorite, but this is a very close second for me as far as the stuff that I've read for them. So I'd highly recommend that one myself.
Is it a continuation story of some they did before, like you said, the Criminal and stuff like that, or is it just a...
It's a criminal story. It has some of the familiar criminal characters in it.
Okay.
The father,
Lawless,
and
Teague Lawless, and then Ricky Lawless is the son. So this is kind of the story of his father, Teague Lawless, and kind of where he came from and what Ricky's life was like when he was a kid, when he was a teenager, living in that household. And it's just so great. I sat and read it in one sitting. It was one of those I got into, and I didn't. I just didn't stop. I just kept going with it.
Did you know that the Criminal Deluxe Edition's reprints, I think, is coming out again?
Really?
Like start beginning from
the omnibus kind of size ones, yeah.
I'm checking now, saying that.
I think they call them deluxe or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
It'll have that Cruel Summer in it. The third one will.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm thinking, I know that they were out of stock, so I mean, they were out of print. I mean, so they were like really expensive, and you couldn't get it because
I paid extra for some. Now I wish I had.
So, is there only 3 of them? I mean,
so the third one includes their most recent Criminal series that Cruel Summer's taken at. Cruel Summer is most of their most recent Criminal series, and then there's that one thin hardback they published about the character like Gil Kane, and that was also part of that series.
So I mean, that's 432 pages for one volume. So because I know I have some in my collection, the Criminal. I'm the one who hasn't read one. criminal. I haven't read those, but they like issue. How many issues there is in the like in the volumes? Like, is there more than 10 or 12? Because there's like volume 2. There's like 3 issues, as far as I know, to collect.
It depends. Every single sort of mini series was it was all part of the same criminal run, but they had individual mini series and they were varying lengths. I don't think they weren't always 4 issues or 6 issues. They kind of adjusted depending on the story, and then it was kind of sort of the one run. It just wasn't numbered like that, which was minorly frustrating. But with the criminal, for me, it was one of those things. I have all this, or most of the single issues, especially the early ones. I'm double and triple dipping, and glad to do so with this, because it really is one of those series that I love. I absolutely love it.
I wonder how expensive they are in single. I mean, honestly, because I'm the one who's looking online most of the time now because of the blah 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 blah. So the ones I've seen, they're always very pricey. Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, people are really, really asking. I mean, I'm not the deluxe editions, if they are the first print. Somebody was asking like £250 for the first volume. It's like,
oh wow.
I mean, people are taking they're pushing the level, and as far as people will take it, you go put something on eBay and see if it's gonna bite, like fish, like it's fishing, like you have something out of print, and that's how people make money. But I wonder if I would love to read it. I just don't know if I want to invest that much money into it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because I'm, trying to save every penny I can.
Yeah.
Well, I've read Criminal totally out of order and enjoyed it a lot. So you could just buy the cheaper issues, I guess, or find some cheaper paperbacks, maybe.
I hate trade paperbacks. I actually know now. I hate them. I don't like them. No.
I'm glad you said it. I feel guilty saying I hate them, but I like the hardbacks so much more.
Yeah, it feels better in. I am not reader, but when I have a hardback and I have paperback, I shove the paperback away, and I'm going to look at hardback straight away. It's just, I have a nag. It just feels so nice on the shelves as well. Now that I'm displaying my stuff, like more when I have more space to display, especially on those filing cabinets. It's finally that monstrosity of Fantastic Four, which I actually going to show it to you. Because I can.
The monstrosity.
Oh, this is the one her husband wanted us to see.
Hey, okay.
Yeah.
Wait. Hey? Wait, not the right one. Oh my god.
It's going to crush your computer.
I'm going to be crushed, but wait a second. I can't do this. Okay, how do you do this?
You don't. It's difficult. There you go. You got it.
You're going to build up your triceps.
Yeah, this is the book I can display now. It was hidden. It was so hidden away, but having this
incredible. Originally, I don't know if they still do. They sold that giant book for $50.
Yes, it was crazy. I can't see myself. If you can see me,
we can see you.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my god,
amazing.
Okay, this is crazy book, but I'm so, because I can't get the first appearance of the Silver Surfer, Galactus, but now I can do a giant size version. It's so heavy. Okay, it's time to stop doing that. This is torture. Whew. I work out for the week.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, because Damien, you have another ones now. There was a couple of those. I bought
every single one that Marvel put out except for a Jim Lee one. So I have 2 Ditko ones that are that big. Is it 2 or 3 other Jack Kirby ones that are that big, and then the Steranko one is that big.
Yeah,
but that first one, for some reason, they priced it way too low. The other ones are like $100, but that's $50. And I got it for like $27 with a discount from In Stock Trade. So
the price tag, even Canadian, looks decent, 63. Okay.
63 is nothing.
Have you seen it?
All right, I don't mean to laugh at you.
We got it.
Oh,
that is peanuts. $63 Canadian.
So how much the price was from other ones then? Are they became like artist edition prices, or?
Yeah, they went up to 100, and then I think maybe the latest one was 125.
Oh my
Which seems like the reasonable price actually for a book that gigantic. But I get them, with the 42% discount from in-stock trades. I feel guilty mentioning that since you guys can't get those.
Yeah.
You can probably get them discounted from Amazon or something.
These ones
Wait, man, no Amazon. Fuck those guys. They didn't support a union.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It's totally fine.
Well, hopefully there's other discount book places to go to.
It's crazy when you look at a I have a Jack Kirby's Artist Edition, which is a book big enough, the Commander one, the only one I have. But then you have look at that panels in that book. It's just like your head size almost, that the one panel, and you're like, oh my god, this is like, you can even more details you can look at. It's amazing to look at, especially when you have. Okay, I'm gonna do this again because I have to show you. But 1, 2, 3, Galactus.
Oh baby.
You see how big he is? Like, oh my god, giant.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I'm gonna go back again.
And surprisingly, both Kirby and Ditko's art scales up fantastically well. I was especially surprised with Ditko. I was worried it wouldn't look good, but his early Spider-Man and early Doctor Strange looks great at that size.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I actually at the beginning I wasn't sure about getting this book, but when like the price I got it for £1, and I think I didn't get it for that much either. I don't think I even reached that figure at all. But now seeing it, and then the price increase on other ones, it's like, I'm glad I just found this one. Like I'm happy. I mean, displaying it is. I mean, it's gonna, if this drops, my child is dead.
That would be horrible. That would ruin Fantastic Four for you forever.
Yeah, I actually, because I remember I was reading it digitally, and I was like thinking, what a stupid woman. I had it in such a big format. I can't start reading it. So
what you can do is have your husband hold it up for you while you read it. He's obviously very strong since he moved the file cabinets for you.
He's deceivingly strong. That's what he says. Keep on saying it. Yeah, this is really beautiful anyway, so well worth it.
Oh.
Special appearance. There we go. Lillian special appearance.
It's I don't think it's Lillian. I think it's some kind of cat creature.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. She was a cat unicorn. She was the Easter bunny. She was all sorts of things the past couple of days. So
wow.
Yeah.
What's that unicorn creature in the Lego movie? I forgot now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Nice to see you.
Nice.
Take over. Take over.
Yeah, no, for a minute. She's always got to make an appearance and use my hands as waving things. So the final one I wanted to talk. Okay, thank you. I've got it. Thanks very much. All right. I am not your puppet. Only sometimes. Okay, Lil. Thank you. That's good. Love you. The final one. I promise this will be the final one. I also wanted to mention this. One of the Conans that Damien sent. Conan Saga. The Red Nails. Really great to see another take on it because I'd finished reading the newer miniseries that's being published, and also this art I found really intriguing, man. Like I don't know, there's just something about it where just the way the foreground and the background almost blend into one. I didn't find it off-putting. Like it's not a criticism. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really nice. The biggest difference in this is, holy shit, Conan is kind of an asshole in this one. And the way he's talking to her and stuff was a bit surprising. It didn't turn me off. I still read the thing and enjoyed it, but I didn't expect that. I didn't realize that was kind of part of the character, you know? So, but still,
I mean, like he's kind of stalking her, right?
Yeah, he really is. And don't worry about it. Just come here and we'll just take care of it. And this is what we're going to do. And get over here, wench, that kind of thing, right? Like,
no.
But the other thing that sort of was really great was when they kind of entered this town, when they entered this building, this town, this everything, you know, it really almost transformed into me and my gaming, like an RPG, like one person's going one way and creatures are entering rooms that you have to battle, and as she's kind of surveying below her and seeing somebody walking through the hallways before she goes down to kill off this I can't remember what they call him, this possessed skull kind of creature here. It was great, man. It was really enjoyable. And I know, Damien, you said to me that the biggest thing with sending these magazines was the focus on the art. Like we talked about in the past, it's best just to kind of, if you're going to pick up
right.
issues,
I just picked out ones that I thought, the art would be exciting to look at.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy the stories, but with a different artist, I don't think I would.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, this one hit it for me. I really dug this one. It was another one of those of sitting down and starting and just not being able to stop. And again, it was just really nice to have that comparison because it was very recently that I read the other Red Nails, right? So it was nice to do a compare and contrast.
So that European Ablaze series, they did Red Nails already? I need to hunt that down. I'm just curious to see the different adaptations.
Yeah, I mean,
now, this is a tragedy, though,
a little more.
Because I originally decided that Rasa needed Red Nails, and I was gonna, and I had all these extra copies of that Conan Saga, which you can find cheaply, and that's the best way to read it is black and white because it was drawn to be black and white. So I got 2 boxes, and I said, well, if I'm going to send Rasa some Conan, I'll send some to Terrence too. And I was filling these boxes with comics, and I was shuffling them around as I was trying to figure out amongst my doubles what to give to each of you. But I had multiple copies of Red Nails I was supposed to give to both of you, and Rasa was originally the one I wanted to give them to, and somehow
I win.
Red Nails did not get in Rasa's box.
Nope.
Although luckily Rima did. It would be horrible if I sent Rima to Terrence by accident.
Yeah.
So I picked out like that Neil Adams comic. I had lots of extras of that, so I gave one to both of you. And there's another A Witch Shall Be Born. It might be fun if it's really terrible to women. A witch shall be born. I mean, the people, I didn't realize it when I read as a kid. The woman character is being raped constantly off screen.
Oh, wow.
Now, the people raping her are bad and they get killed at the end.
Yeah.
But
That's
like,
okay.
oh, so much rape. Why the emphasis on that? But it's amazing how when you're a kid, you can just not know, you'd be totally clueless what's happening.
Well, that's because you're a child.
But I mean, I read it at 14 or 15. I wasn't that young.
It's
but
still,
I still
though.
didn't pick up on it. I didn't pick up on it.
No, yeah, but you're naive and some stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you both got a issue of Conan Saga, I think, that has some interesting Jim Starlin doing Conan, which I thought was an interesting thing. But anyway, I think despite the expense, I'm gonna send some more stuff to Rasa.
Nice.
I want to.
No, I'm gonna be feeling horrible already.
I mean, I'm doubles sitting in my basement. It's sad.
Yeah.
They need a home.
Because because I remember you were talking about that Red Nails particularly because of Vincent Smith and stuff like that, and I was like, and I was watching Terrence's video. I was like, I've heard about Red Nails, and then you tell me you forgot something. It's like, really? This is the one? Because I was watching his video to see what you got.
At first, I thought someone stole it out of your box, but the box was pretty full, right?
I stole it. This guy right here.
Yeah, exactly. Shame on you, Terrence. Pew, pew, pew. You see the evil side of Terrence now.
Yes, exactly.
You're gonna be a comic hogger now. So experienced selling all the comic books online. But,
all mine. I survey my land.
Crack monster now instead of a comic crack. It was a crack monster.
That's right.
Dusty Clam says, is there much of that in Gru? I'm not sure what he was referring to. There isn't rape in Gru, if that's what he's referring to.
Yeah.
because it's a barbarian as well, isn't he?
But Gru is a spoof of Conan, but it has
Yeah,
a life of its own, and it's a happier place.
Mm.
Although people die all over the place in Gru, they just say they're dead. You never see him kill a single person.
Mm. Cool. So which issues do you were talking? Because I'm going to read them particularly. Where is that rapey issue? Which one?
So you guys have different editions. I sent you the more fancy edition. It's called The Witch Shall Be Born. It's got Conan on the crucifix on the cover.
Oh, this one.
And I don't remember which.
Is this the one?
Because the covers don't match in Conan's like that one. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's very intense, so it might be interesting to read.
I'm definitely gonna have it to read that. That's for sure. No, I want. Oh, the Tree of Death. That's the. Oh, boy. Whoa. Okay. Yeah.
We'll have to coordinate Rasa, so we can read the same one. Yeah.
Yeah, you should. Then you read the same story then, so we can talk about it. Let's see what we both think, because it's just like nice art, black and white.
And then there was an issue of Conan Saga that I think I sent you both that has some Gil Kane art and some Jim Starlin art, but I just don't remember which one it is.
Sweet.
It's really beautiful, in here. Art-wise, black and white. I like that stuff.
Yeah, it really is, man.
Yeah. Cool.
Right on. So on that note, why don't we call it a day?
Call it a day.
And then next week we'll be back with we'll go to Rasa's channel, I guess. In the rotation will be Rasa's channel. So if you aren't subscribed, make sure that you are. I'm assuming most people who dropped by today, there was a couple of new faces here. Somebody named Costin Brom Star. So make sure you're all subscribed to the Rasa's channel. Yeah, very strange name. I don't know why you would choose that kind of name, but whatever. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in.
I picture a skinny little guy, probably about 2 feet tall.
Clean shaven.
Yes, very clean shaven.
Baby faced, really. I think,
Yeah. Probably with a high pitched voice.
Yeah. We'll talk to you next week, everybody. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Later. So I find pushing the button. Adam was here, so here we go. This is what happened.